could have taken him.
Yeah.
So, and also, too, someone could have traded up. The Chiefs were obviously taking calls on the pick, so the Chiefs could have traded out into the second round themselves. So you had to do it. That makes sense. But to me, what I really, really find exciting about it all is the fact that, once again, the Eagles got an asset that is highly rated above that, including like the big board of Andrew DeCecco.
Yes.
And that is, which by the way had a great night. We'll get into that during the course of the day. Jahad Campbell was his 10th player on the big board. Jahad Campbell was a top 12 player on between Kuiper, Daniel Jeremiah.
Yeah.
People were worried about the labrum. The labrum injury, and we'll get into this more. I pulled up a list of people who have had labrum injuries. Like, I mean, this is not a thing that you'd go, oh, my gosh, labrum injury is just going to destroy his career.
Right.
It's not. I can't believe Jahad Campbell was there when the Eagles were even in striking distance to be able to trade up and get him. I am so excited this morning. I can't believe
More SEC talent.
I love
man.
that.
So over the last couple of years, let's just look at the first three rounds. 2021, Devontae Smith, Landon Dickerson, your two
Alabama.
SEC players out of Alabama.
And then Dickerson to FSU also, too.
Yes. 2022, Jordan Davis, first round, Nakobe Dean, third round, Georgia. 2023, Jalen Carter, Georgia. Nolan Smith, Georgia. Tyler Steen, Alabama. And then last night they add to it with Jahad Campbell, linebacker out of Alabama. I know you are a big SEC fan after all your years you spent down in the ATL. You watch this guy play, you are thrilled.
I'm thrilled, and I was thrilled when it happened. And when I still, though, I'm going to tell you flat out, I did not think that's what they were trading up to do. I didn't know what it was going to be. I honestly was going, are they taking a tight end? Is he trading up for a tight end? Like I was like, what is he doing? Because I'm thinking to myself, no, I got fooled. And Andrew, you talked about it yesterday, and we talked about it at length. Howie Roseman has been doing things out of character.
Yeah.
I should have seen it coming. I should have known and gone, wait a minute. And I really did wonder if Simmons was going to be the pick. I thought maybe they were going to go with Simmons out of Ohio State, who ended up going to the Chiefs with the 32nd pick.
Yeah.
Because when I saw them trade up, I'm like, oh, they're going offensive line.
Yeah.
And I said, everyone's going to be bored tomorrow morning.
Absolutely.
And say, that's a boring pick. You didn't need it this year. But Howie keeps flipping the script on us. And that's a beautiful thing, because when he flips the script on us, who talk about the Eagles 24/7, that means he's flipping the script on his peers also.
Well, and here's the deal. So, obviously, throughout the show today, we're reacting to the selection of Jahad Campbell. We will react to the rest of the NFL draft. Andrew DeCecco with us in studio from 8 to 10 again today, like he was yesterday, this time to react to last night and to preview rounds 2 and 3, which happened today. But if we're looking for some sort of topic to discuss, that's exactly what I want to talk about. How happy are you that the Eagles are going against what they normally do? And what they normally go against is exactly what a lot of people have been wanting in this city. Linebacker drafted in the first round. Cornerback last year drafted in the first round. Signing and
another
paying,
corner in the second round, by the way.
Yes.
Last year.
Signing and paying a top-tier running back, right? Oh, you can't do the running back anymore. That's so old school. Well, maybe this is an old school city when it comes to the sport of football, and clearly that still works. When you won the Super Bowl, even though Barkley didn't have the best game in the Super Bowl, you got to and won the Super Bowl behind the number 1 rushing attack in the NFL and the number 1 defense in the NFL. I understand Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady, the GOATs in their sports. We watched them over the past 15, 20 years run the league. But here's the deal. If you don't have Patrick Mahomes, if you don't have Tom Brady, this should go in any sport. If you don't have what other people are chasing, instead of continuing to chase maybe a mirage, because you don't just find goats left and right.
You do not.
Right? They only come once in every while.
We have goats out in Chester County, though.
Yes, you do.
Like all over the place.
Instead of chasing mirages, try to build something that you think works. And what they have built works, and what they are building, I believe, continues to work. And I'm so thrilled, not just because we're excited for a player, it's what we've been wanting here in Philadelphia. And Howie, I'm not saying Howie's finally understanding. Howie knows more than we do about football, but it just feels good. And, man, what another great pick last night.
See, what you say, though, what you say you don't want to say is exactly what I do want to say. Howie he did figure this out, Andrew.
That's true.
He did figure this out. And the thing is, there's nothing I admire more in life. Like, I mean, honestly, from anybody. And in fact, I told my students about it the other day. You've got to be adaptable. Like, everything's changed. Radio has changed since the 90s when I started doing it. It's completely changed. Flip the script. And you have to constantly change and evolve to what you're doing today. Now it's about digital, and it's about like short bites of information. It wasn't like that. It used to be just about dialing the phone number and taking calls.
Yeah.
It is. You got to adapt. Howie Roseman has shown he's adaptable. And to me, that is like a skill set that everybody should have in their toolkit.
It's just funny that
and he's got it.
Adaptable is drafting players from the SEC.
Well, the thing is, though, look, it's a mentality, and I think part of it is the turnover in the scouting department, too.
That helps, yeah.
He brings in scouts that understand that area, and I told you, we talked about all during this draft process, that it's been described to me that Howie and the Eagles have literally carpet-bombed Athens and Tuscaloosa.
Yeah.
They're always there. They're everywhere. And I know that the Kirby Smart staff has no better relationship than with the Eagles. No better team in the NFL has made inroads with their staff. They know everything about every kid. And more importantly, that means when they go to scout other players in the SEC, they can go to that coaching staff and say, hey, when you were preparing to play Jahad Campbell, what'd you say about him?
Right.
And they can hear all there's a free exchange of information, because I can promise you can go and look at Georgia's football's social media. They've used the Eagles 3 times since the Super Bowl as like an ad.
Yeah.
Alabama used it as an ad. Hey, champions, congratulations, champions.
Yeah, come play for us.
Exactly.
And then maybe you'll go there.
It's a copacetic relationship. I'm just so proud of Howie Roseman, to me, being adaptable, because I didn't, again, even before the pick last night, I go, he's not doing that, is he?
And he did it.
And I was so excited.
All right, reaction to the pick. How happy are you that the Eagles are doing what you have been screaming about for years in terms of SEC players, building through the defense, drafting corners in the first round, drafting linebackers in the first round? John, we have linebackers in the city of Philadelphia, man.
No. We have weapons.
Damn right.
We have weapons at linebacker.
We have weapons. Love it. All right. Who is Jahad Campbell? Coming up next, you'll hear from the experts like Mel Kiper, Louis Riddick, and Nick Saban.
Nick Saban knows him well.
He knows a thing or two about Alabama. You'll hear from them coming up next. It is Kincade and Salciunas, day 2 of the NFL Draft, reaction to day 1 here on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Mike Missanelli.
The home runs are ridiculous.
Clock Hour sponsor right there. It is Kincade Salciunas on this Friday morning, day 2 of the NFL Draft reaction to day 1. By the way, the reaction to the Eagles selection on social media last night was just incredible, Johnny.
A very, very positive night.
Or jealousy.
Oh,
night
yes.
of jealousy.
Outrage from around the league.
Chris Sims, of course. Eagles get another top 15 player. Unbelievable. Don't need Jahad Campbell now. Could let the shoulder issues heal. He'll be good at middle linebacker. Ryan Clark. Eagles, man, they are always getting the right guy. There's Micah Parsons' reaction. Obviously upset that the Eagles continue to thrive. It's amazing.
Mina Kimes, who a lot of people are like, oh, it's a girl. Talking about it. Mina Kimes knows football.
Yes, she does.
And Mina Kimes said before the draft.
Yep, I saw that.
She said, I'm not sure that, like, Jahad Campbell wouldn't be, like, a top 5 pick for me. Like, that kind of.
Yeah, she said if he falls, he's going to be an absolute steal for somebody.
Well, it's going to be a steal. And 31, it's a freaking steal. You use 31 and a 5th-round pick. Dude, it's so good.
I mean, think about their last 2 picks in the 30s. Nolan Smith at 30 just a couple of years ago, and now Jahad Campbell at 31.
And more importantly, too, is that he's 21 years old.
It's amazing. This defense is so young and talented.
This defense lost their 3 oldest players.
Yeah.
And now you've replaced one of them with Jahad Campbell, who I said yesterday morning, I didn't even think it was a possibility. I asked Andrew Pacheco point blank about him. I said, you don't think that the Eagles would do it? And he goes, no, I don't think they're trading up to get Jahad Campbell. He wasn't thinking trading up to get to
just one spot. Yeah.
And
ended up just being one spot.
And one humble brag on Andrew Pacheco. The first 24 picks in the draft. Okay, so I was following his big board all night long.
I brought it with me today too.
All right, first 24 picks in the draft last night. 29 of them were in his top 20. He had 24 of them showed up in his top 29.
That's amazing.
And so to me, Pacheco is freaking gold.
Yeah,
and
knows what the hell he's talking
He won't
about.
brag on himself.
No, so we'll brag for him, and he'll be with us today from 8 to 10.
That is a great mock draft. Like, he didn't do a mock draft, sort of. He did his big board. And when 24 of your players are ranked, that go in the first round, are ranked in his top 29, that's really good work.
He's our expert. He'll be joining us for the final 2 hours of today's show. But how about the experts that were at the podium live from Green Bay last night? We all know Mel Kiper and his evaluation of the draft. He's been doing it for years. Here was him yesterday reacting to the Eagles selection of Jahad Campbell.
21 on the big board. Gritty would have been gone a lot higher had it not been for the shoulder injury. He played great all year for Alabama. 117 tackles, team high 11 and a half tackles for loss. 5 of those were sacks. Think about this football team, the way Hall of Fame GM Howie Roseman has constructed it. Half the starters, half the 22 are from the SEC. Like those proven entities, those guys who played for the big powers in the SEC. And Jahad Campbell did, as I said, guys, he would have gone much higher had it not been for the shoulder injury.
Now, notice he said once again, Hall of Fame general manager Howie Roseman, after the Eagles won the Super Bowl, remember, he said he should have been given the gold jacket right there.
11 and a half. Think about it. In the SEC, the best NFL talent, as you can judge by the draft, the first 2 nights of the draft every year, the SEC outnumbers every other conference in dominant fashion. 11 and a half tackles for loss, 5 of them for sacks. That's absurd. And remember, he is a pass rusher.
Yeah.
This is a guy who will be involved in pass rush. And I'm telling you, I'm so excited. I'm so excited that they got him.
Well, let's play one more clip for you. How about the former head coach of Alabama? Roll Tide. Here's Nick Saban on Jahad Campbell.
Yeah, well, this guy's a great person. I mean, what people have to understand about Jahad, he played with his hand in the dirt in high school, went to, IMG, came out, was an outside backer, moved to inside backer, and got better and better and better, and I thought had a fantastic year this year. He has tremendous range, speed. He can play in or out. He never played behind the line before we moved him 2 years ago because of injuries. But he's developed into a first-round inside guy. He could be an edge rusher. This guy, I just love this pick. I really do. I mean, this guy lit it up at the combine. Yeah. I know some people. The only reason they're getting him here is because people had some injury questions because of shoulder surgery, might not be ready for camp. But if you're the Philadelphia Eagles, what do you care?
Right.
You know, you're going to pick a guy that's going to be there maybe for the next 10 years for you and be a really, really good player. And when he does get healthy, he's going to have pass rush for him.
By the way, that screaming in the background was Jahad Campbell running through the tunnel, being prepared to dap up Roger.
They moved to get him, and it's unbelievable.
Well, here's the thing. They moved to get him, and at one point, there was a thought they needed to move up higher, Johnny. How bad did the Eagles want Jahad Campbell? A report from last night where Howie Roseman felt like he needed to jump up way more than one spot to get him. And you'll hear from Howie Roseman himself. We're reacting to day one of the NFL draft. The Eagles select linebacker Jahad Campbell out of Alabama. At some point in the 7 o'clock hour, we'll react to the entire draft. But right now, first hour, we're reacting to what the Birds did, and it was a great night last night. It's Kincade and Salciunas here on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
With the 31st pick in the first round, the Philadelphia Eagles select. I'm Brendan Gunn with your Fanatic Sports Update, and it is brought to you by Moyer Indoor and Outdoor Services. Follow Andrew Salciunas' lead and get a jump on a lush green lawn this spring. Right now, go to eMoyer.com for free estimates. Yes, with the 31st overall pick last night, the Eagles selected linebacker Jahad Campbell out of Alabama, the first linebacker selected in the first round since 1979 by the Birds. They entered the night with the 32nd overall pick as reigning Super Bowl champions, but they saw their guy drop, and they traded up one spot with the Kansas City Chiefs to select the 2024 first-team All-SEC linebacker. Campbell had 117 tackles last year, 12 tackles for a loss, and 5 sacks. On top of that for the Crimson Tide, Howie Roseman spoke after the pick last night and said the Birds had Campbell ranked extremely high on their draft board.
This was a top 10 player on our board. We do not have any long-term concerns with his health. We look at the draft as a long-term opportunity for our team. We have a lot of confidence this guy's going to be here and play at a really high level for a long time.
The draft continues tonight with the second and third rounds, where the Eagles hold the 64th overall pick in the second round and the 96th pick in the third round. The Phils continue their road trip this afternoon after getting swept by the New York Mets. They begin a 3-game weekend series with the Chicago Cubs today at 2:20. Taijuan Walker is on the mound for the Phils. This update was also brought to you by Bet Parks Casino, Pennsylvania's #1 casino experience. This is how you win. I'm Brendan Gunn on the home for the best Birds coverage of the 2025 NFL Draft. 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
Vacation? Business trip? Don't worry.
6 on Kincade and Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic on this Friday morning. Celebrating night 1 of the NFL draft, being ready for day 2, rounds 2 and 3 tonight. Don't forget, again, our man Andrew DeCecco will be in studio with us today from 8 to 10. They sounded fantastic. I got
Great
a chance
job
to listen
by the whole crew.
I had to make a quick run out real quick, and I listened to Tyrone and Andrew and Bill. And then, of course, I saw some of the clips that were posted on our social media accounts. Great job by Dylan McKinnon doing all that. Check it out on the Instagram account, 975thefanatic.com. Tyrone, Andrew, and Bill were spectacular last night. Breaking down every pick, too, which is really fun.
That's really a lot of fun.
Good night. And, of course, a great night when they select Jihad Campbell, moving up one spot, trading a 5th-round pick for a top 10 player, Johnny.
And a local, too.
Yeah.
So, understanding the community, understanding what he's walking into. And more importantly, as Nick Saban said, and you played it in the last segment, he doesn't have to come along quickly.
No.
They can let him completely heal. They can have him ready to go. But, wow, it's a great morning. That was worth staying up for. And this morning when that alarm went off, when the Price is Right music went off, I was like, oh, geez.
It'll just be a good nap day for you, that's all.
Could very well be.
It'll be a good nap day.
Played 9 holes yesterday afternoon. I was like, I'm ready to go.
Man, you're busy.
Didn't play them well.
So
played them a lot.
They traded up one spot to 31. Now, again, last year, Howie Roseman was a master at watching how that board was falling.
Yes.
They wanted Quinyon Mitchell. There was really no secret there. And talks were about trading into the teens. I think 17 was the pick that a lot of people thought that's where he's going to have to get. He falls to them at 22. So Jihad Campbell, as we quickly found out, and you'll hear from Howie Roseman himself, they really wanted him. Here was Ian Rappaport yesterday on the coverage of the NFL Network talking about how the Eagles almost traded up way higher than just one spot.
Here's how badly Eagles general manager Howie Roseman wanted Jihad Campbell. When the Chargers were on the clock at 22, he was working the phones trying to get a trade. They thought they had a trade, thought it was done. The Chargers ended up picking, tried to get at 23, again at 24, now get Campbell at 31.
He wanted to trade up to 22, and all he had to do was move up one spot, Johnny.
It's because of what they thought was going to happen and what they think this player is going to be.
Right.
I believe this player is going to be spectacular. I didn't even think it was an option. I said it yesterday morning.
I know.
I said, they're not going to do this, right? And he goes, and Andrew DeCecco, no, because I don't think they can get up that high.
Yeah.
Wow, you never know how the board's going to go.
Well, we'll react to more of the draft coming up at 7 o'clock, but here's how it went. Omarion Hampton, the running back out of North Carolina, ended up going to the Chargers.
He's a beast, by the way.
Yeah, and they needed him back, so it was a good pick for him. Matthew Golden, receiver to the Packers. Donovan Jackson, guard to the Vikings. The Giants make the trade up for Jackson Dart, which we'll talk about, at 25. So that's 4 straight offensive players. And you start going, all right, is this like the reverse of last year?
Yes.
Remember the first 14 players off the board were all on offense. Then you go with the Falcons getting James Pierce. Malachi Starks, who, of course, we all had eyes on, goes to the Ravens. Then it's Tyleek Williams to the Lions, Josh Connerly Jr. to the Commanders. And then they needed to wait one more pick, and Maxwell Hairston, cornerback, went to the Bills, who we talked about yesterday as a potential landing spot for the Eagles.
I would have been fine if they had ended up with him.
They got their top 10 rated player by some at pick 31. Here's Howie Roseman, his opening statement on their first-round selection.
The rules are...
We picked Jihad Campbell. We made a small trade up just to ensure that we could get him. There were a lot of trades in the 20s, and so we just want to make sure that someone didn't jump ahead of us. Excited to have him. Really excited to have him. Wasn't really something we anticipated. Understand some of the other teams may have reasons for taking other players, but for us, this is a really easy pick. Really explosive player. He can play inside. He can be an edge rusher. Just really feel fortunate to bring him home back to Philly.
I love how he's not taking a shot at other teams, but he goes, we really didn't think this would be a possibility. You know, teams have players that they want.
They have reasons for picking who they pick.
Yeah. Meanwhile, he's probably going, man, I thought I needed to trade up to 22. I got him at 31?
Did you watch two things when Jihad Campbell got selected? First of all, he was shot out of a cannon to go back there and put that hat on.
Oh, he ran through that tunnel.
And when he saw the Eagles logo on the tunnel, He pounds on the Eagles
Yep.
logo on the tunnel, and he looked like he had tears in his eyes. Like, are you freaking kidding me? I'm going to the Super Bowl champs, my hometown team. I'm going to be an Eagle. And then when he's hugging Roger Goodell, I don't know if anybody else caught it. He says, "Watch the shoulder." As Goodell's hugging him.
Oh, really?
He says, "Watch it." You picked it up on
I did not pick that up. No.
Watch the shoulder. Because as he's hugging him. And boy,
Meanwhile, he's slamming the Eagles
Oh, my God.
logo.
He hit that
He's
logo
using
like
both
boom.
arms. He wasn't afraid of his shoulder at that moment.
He was so happy. I think you just the commissioner was really. Yeah, I mean, it looked like something out of a Chris Hansen episode.
Oh, he's
the
always
hugging last night. It was a little too much.
He's always bro hugging.
Yeah, a little too much.
I gotta say, and we'll play one more clip from Howie. I hate this.
What?
I fell in love with Tyler Booker last night.
Oh yes,
and of course he goes to the Cowboys.
Right, but
he was so happy to be drafted, and his smile on his face, and then he hugged Goodell like a bear for
He
like
did.
10 minutes, and I was like, "Damn it! Don't make me hate you."
I hope it's the first of many holdings for him.
Right, exactly. But like the NFL draft is such an incredible experience because you see obviously such happiness from the players being selected. It was cool.
And honestly, I got to tell you, it was the most, to me, desirable first rounders I've ever seen. The stories were great.
Oh yeah, it was fantastic.
The humble young men, and we'll talk about it at a later time. But Shedeur Sanders last night, he made a fan of me.
Oh yeah,
He made a fan of me the way it would have been real easy to go run and hide, and he didn't.
Yeah.
He showed a lot of character.
That's
I would say,
gotta suck having the big draft party and
yeah, and I'd say Dad
getting drafted.
doing him no favors by having him standing in front of a wall full of Shedeur Sanders merchandise that they were looking to sell. It's a disgrace. I wish the young man well.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's going to be a decent quarterback in the NFL.
I hear it wouldn't shock me if San Francisco was interested in him. So think about that. Just put that in your back pocket. Could be the 49ers. And if Shanahan gets to develop him, dude, he could beat out maybe a Brock Purdy.
And again, what have I been saying?
You've always said you wouldn't. You
Ain't
as a
no
GM,
way I'm
you
paying
would never
Brock
pay Brock
Purdy $50 million a year.
Yep,
that would be a big move for them.
And how about this? As much as I still have some disdain for Shanahan,
he's an offensive.
He's a genius.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you now, after last night, I'm rooting for Shedeur Sanders to really show out.
One more clip from Howie. You heard in that first one, he was kind of surprised that teams passed on him. Hear how high they had him on his big board.
This was a top 10 player on our board. We do not have any long-term concerns with his health. We look at the draft as a long-term opportunity for our team. We have a lot of confidence this guy's going to be here and play at a really high level for a long time. And so when you're in a draft and you're picking at the end of the first round, you have an opportunity to get a top 10 player on your board, a guy who can affect the quarterback, a guy who can affect the passing game. You know, for us, it was a no-brainer. Local kid, great character. So we were really excited to add him.
They had him top 10.
That's awesome.
On their board. And look, if Howie Roseman and the Eagles scouts are saying he's a top 10 player, then hell yeah, he's a top 10 player because they've been hitting home runs in the draft over the last couple of years, man.
They're shopping in the right aisle, Andrew.
Yeah, finally.
I mean, and again, you know what, though? I think we need to retire that.
What, the finally?
And I need to stop. No, exactly. You need to retire that. Because it's, and that's me, too, for being so excited about it because they've shown now they have a different mentality.
Right, we should celebrate.
We should celebrate it, and more importantly, there doesn't have to be any more snideness like, oh, wow, they finally figured it out.
Right,
because now they've shown us over and over again now they've got it under control.
I did see a lot of jokes last night, though, like that Howie Roseman, once he found out he can draft in the SEC, and it's just all the memes. But look, great day again last night. Great day today, rounds 2 and 3. We'll talk about it all show today. You can text in your reaction to the Jahad Campbell selection at 610-632-0975. And as an Eagles fan, a city where we do believe in running the football, a city in where we do believe in rough, aggressive defense and wanting top-tier defensive players and wanting first-round corners and wanting first-round linebackers, the fact that they are doing it, and it's now over the last 2 years that they're doing it.
Sure.
How happy does that make you as an Eagles fan? Because let's face it, it is kind of the bread and butter of this city wanting certain things.
Well, linebacker, too, reflects the city.
Yeah.
And now they've invested in it big time.
A couple of players now.
Absolutely.
So we'd love to hear from you. It's 610-632-0975. We got a lot in store for you, too. We'll tell you more about it coming up next. It's Kincade Salciunas here on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Tyrone Johnson.
I want nothing.
The Fanatic. The Friday, day 2 of the NFL draft, reacting to day 1. Eagles select linebacker Jihad Campbell out of Alabama with the 31st overall pick. They traded up one spot, swapping with the Kansas City Chiefs,
and
giving
swiping.
them a 5th-round pick.
Swiping?
I went between flipping and swapping.
And swiping.
The Dead Space Monkey has checked in on Twitter.
Oh, good. I was wondering what Dead Space is thinking this morning.
The last time the Eagles drafted a cornerback in round 1 before last year was 2002. The last running back that was selected in the first round, 1986. So that will continue for a while, as it should. And the last linebacker selected in the first round before last night.
I don't even have any idea.
1979.
Well, that's why I was an 8th grader.
1979 was the last time the Eagles drafted a linebacker in the first round. That was that Jerry Robinson.
Oh, he was a hell of a player.
UCLA.
Yeah, he was a hell of a player.
Come on, man.
And Dick Vermeil knew him. Dick Vermeil recruited him in college.
That's right.
That's incredible. It's been that long. Gosh, I'm happy.
And again, that's why one of our topics today is how happy are you that the Eagles are kind of doing what we have been asking for years? And this is not a shot to Howie, right? Like, Howie and the belief in drafting offensive and defensive line has worked them immensely for 25 years. So they should do what they believe in. But over the last couple of years, we've been saying, man, instead of like drafting corners in the 3rd and 4th round, why don't you draft a top-tier corner? Instead of trying to get linebackers off the scrap heap like they did with Zach Cunningham and Nicholas Morrow 2 years ago, why not get a linebacker that might actually pan out? Now, Nakobe Dean was a first-round grade who fell to the 3rd round because of injury concerns, and, of course, that is continuing. Zach Bond they lucked into, right?
I mean, yeah, Nakobe's been hurt every year of his career.
But now, Jihad Campbell, they go, all right, we're going to use top draft capital to select this player at a position that a lot of people want to see, and you got that last night. We'd love to hear from you, 610-632-0975.
I think everybody's sleeping in this morning, honestly, a little bit. Is that because I got to tell you, I never sleep through an alarm. My alarm, when I turned it off, it goes off at 4:05.
Yeah.
It literally is playing the Price is Right theme. And I woke up, when I turned off my alarm, it said 4:07.
Oh, so you actually made it through 2 minutes.
So it said 4:07 when I turned it off.
Interesting.
So I was maybe just thinking that Drew was calling me down, or
maybe you were having a dream about it.
Oh, I can't wait to do that.
So here's what we got for you today. Andrew DeCecco during the 8 and 9 o'clock hours will be with us. We have a lot of audio still for you. Obviously, you just heard from Howie Roseman in the previous segment. You'll continue to hear more from the people who do the draft coverage, like Mel Kiper, Charles Davis.
What did you watch?
You'll hear their reaction. I flipped around. I was NFL Network to start because when I went to Hulu Live, that was like the big one.
Oh, NFL Network was on your Hulu. Okay, I don't have. we have Hulu, but we use YouTube TV.
If you go to Hulu Live, it shows like the big event that's being broadcast,
right.
and I just click on it, and it brings me to the channel that's being promoted. So I was NFL Network. I switched to ESPN, the ABC, all that kind of stuff.
Okay, which one did you prefer of the ABC, ESPN? Because I got onto the Saban, Kirk Herbstreit, and Reese Davis. I honestly, I was not turning the channel.
No, they're tremendous.
They were unbelievable.
Yeah, and Reese is awesome too, man.
That
fantastic.
Reese did a great job.
Yeah, and by the way, they know those players
and
inside now. I mean,
that's what I want to watch. I want to watch college analysts work the draft.
Yeah,
because they know it best.
Yeah,
they know it best. It's their fastball.
Yeah,
so it was great.
Absolutely. All right, so what do we got in the text line so far this morning? Gunner, Brendan Gunn filling in for Connor. Connor, non-football guy.
Whoa.
Missing the day after the NFL draft.
Explain why, though.
He's got a
college alumni
golf outing, which is really cool. I know he made the drive down yesterday. I know he's going to have a blast this weekend.
Shirt off, roof down.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
probably. It was beautiful weather out yesterday. Gunner, what do we got today?
Yeah, we got Ed in Haddon Heights, New Jersey, checking in saying, drafting Jihad Campbell has me hyped. We now have multiple playmakers on all 3 levels. But what does this say about the future of Nakobe Dean and his future in Kelly Green and Midnight Green?
So this is something that we were planning on talking about a lot today. Let's answer the texter. Yesterday, when we were doing the show, one of our topics, and this has been a topic a couple of times, was that the draft could maybe tell you what they think about certain players on this team. Like if they traded up for Malachi Starks, right? That would have told you all you needed to know about Sidney Brown and what they thought about him.
And I wonder when they were looking to trade up earlier, could they have been trying to trade up for Malachi Starks? I wondered about that because we did hear that the Eagles were trying to trade up from 22 on.
Yeah.
Were they trying to trade up for Starks? I wonder.
Maybe.
Yeah, because we'll never know the truth to that.
Right. They'll tell you exactly.
Right.
The Jihad Campbell stuff.
Jihad was
which
the only
should.
one we were looking at. Right.
They could have traded up for a corner or selected a corner, and if they did that, that would have told you what they think maybe about Keely Ringo, because a lot of people are just kind of cementing him in as the other corner outside of Quinyon Mitchell. So drafting a linebacker in the first round after paying Zach Bond. Now, they can use Campbell all over the place, and you heard that in some of the clips that we've played for you. He doesn't just have to be your traditional linebacker. He can sometimes line up on the line of scrimmage. But I imagine they're going to try to focus early on getting him on the field, and we don't know still when Nakobe Dean will be back. No. He might be back week 1, but that's not a lock.
And we don't know. We honestly don't know how quickly Jihad Campbell's going to be up, ready to go either.
Because of his injury.
Because of his injury, but it's well worth it. It's so worth it.
And again, Nakobe Dean, as we continue to track maybe what the Eagles have been doing, Nakobe Dean would eventually have to be paid, right?
He's going to have to be paid next off season.
And so if you draft his replacement already, you don't have to worry about maybe making that payday. And again, the injury concerns is legit. Now, he
3
played
years in a row.
He played 15 games last year, and
He did.
it's a shame how it ended and the way that it ended. But, like you said, Johnny, 3 years in a row, and there was issues coming out of college as well. Right. And as much as we like Nakobe Dean, and man, did he improve his game last year?
Unbelievable.
And that should be celebrated. I can still picture that one-handed interception against the Jaguars that helped seal the game.
And he'll be green dot this year again.
Yeah.
But it's going to be, and Jahad Campbell's going to come along. I will tell you this. I watched every snap of Nakobe Dean's college career. And I watched a lot of Jahad Campbell. There is zero chance that I would ever say, if given both players to choose from, that I wouldn't choose Jahad Campbell every time. And I love Nakobe Dean, and I pumped him up forever. There's no chance that I would ever go, oh, no, give me Campbell.
Right.
Because he's just a dynamic force out there, and he's a weapon. He is a weapon at linebacker.
Top 10 on their big board, Johnny.
I got to tell you, Andrew, I really believe, and Gunner, I really believe they are looking at him as a pass rusher too.
Sure.
As I hate the word hybrid.
Yeah.
And that's
you were saying that last week.
And that's something I'm going to ask Andrew DeCecco to talk me off the ledge a little about.
Well, if you remember, Micah Parsons came into the NFL as an off-ball linebacker, and then they liked him so much because he could get after the quarterback. Not saying that's going to happen, but it's always a possibility with a guy that can do multiple things.
Well, remember, and for those of you who didn't watch a ton of SEC, Jahad Campbell, the reason they had to bring him inside was because of 2 injuries in the middle of their defense that they needed him to do something different. They didn't realize how good he'd be at it. But it was only by design that they had other players to do that job, and Nick Saban had to press him into service. And it worked out well for him.
All right, give us one more text message, Gunner, on the reaction to day 1 of the NFL draft.
Yeah, we got CJ and Media checking in saying the best part about drafting these SEC kids, in addition to the talent they already have, is the fact they come in with pedigree in big games.
Yeah, and you know what?
That is too,
and they all know each other. Like, not just the Georgia Bulldogs, but like, I imagine the Georgia players know the Alabama players, right?
They
were all scouted.
Yes, recruited. If any,
right.
If any player was recruited by Kirby Smart,
they were recruited by Alabama.
Who was Nick Saban's defensive coordinator for 9 years, I believe 9. They were recruited they recruited the same people.
Yeah,
they used to talk about Kirby and Nick would show up in the South. Recruiting's a big deal. Like, we talked about it on Sports Talk Radio.
Right.
Like,
Who's
we
being
talk about
recruited,
stuff.
Yeah.
And Kirby would come in the Kirby copter, and he had a copter.
Oh, nice.
And he'd come into the Kirby copter and land at the high school and go to visit a student, like, during the school day. And sometimes they'd say, here comes Nick Saban in the limo, and they'd be passing.
I'll just say, the Kirby copter cooler than limo.
No, and Coach was anti. He was private jet, but he was not into the copter.
I'm just saying, if I hear coming to my high school.
You know what Kirby did every Friday night?
What?
Friday Night Lights in Georgia? The Kirby copter would land at a high school.
Oh, I'm sure, yeah.
And Kirby Smart's there on the sidelines with a box of popcorn.
Hell yeah,
and he'd be
man.
walking around eating popcorn and watching players play.
I love that.
It became a good meme.
All right, coming up next, we'll continue to react to the Eagles' first-round selection. We'll react to the rest of the draft as well, because there were some shocking trades, one of which was in division, players that fell out of the first round. A wild day, as always, in day 1 of the NFL draft. It's Kincade Salciunas here on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
The Eagles move up to get their guy. I'm Brendan Gunn with your Fanatic Sports Update. With the 31st overall pick last night, the Philadelphia Eagles selected linebacker Jahad Campbell out of Alabama. It's the first linebacker the team took in the first round since 1979. The Birds entered the night with the 32nd overall pick as reigning Super Bowl champions, but they saw their guy drop and they traded up one spot with the Kansas City Chiefs to select the former 2024 first-team All-SEC linebacker. Campbell last year for the Crimson Tide had 117 tackles, 12 tackles for a loss, and 5 sacks as well. Howie Roseman spoke after the pick last night and said the Birds had Campbell ranked extremely high on their draft board.
This was a top 10 player on our board. We do not have any long-term concerns with his health. We look at the draft as a long-term opportunity for our team. We have a lot of confidence this guy's going to be here and play at a really high level for a long time.
The draft continues today with the second and third rounds, where the Eagles hold the 64th overall pick in the second round and the 96th overall pick in the third round. The Phillies, they continue their road trip tonight after getting swept by the New York Mets earlier this week. They begin that 3-game weekend series with the Chicago Cubs today at 2:20. Taijuan Walker is going to be on the mound for the Phils. This update was brought to you by Mercedes-Benz. That feeling of owning your first Mercedes-Benz is hard to believe, but it's real. From the leather stitching to the iconic design, every element of a Mercedes-Benz lives up to its reputation. See for yourself at your local dealer. I'm Brendan Gunn on the home for the best coverage of the Birds 2025 NFL Draft. 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
NFL draft.
There were other stories?
Oh, there was a million stories, but obviously the big story here on Action News. The Eagles selected Jihad Campbell yesterday with the 31st overall pick, moving up one spot, flipping with the Chiefs. They gave the Chiefs one of their 17,000 fifth-round picks just to move up one spot to get a player who Howie Roseman had in his top 10 on his big board, and they fell to 31. Now, you sent me something interesting this morning if you want to grab it. Paul Hembekides with the hit rates. What, since 2000?
This is the modern era, so it means since the Houston Texans have been in the NFL.
2002?
So 2002. Was that very good on your part there?
So,
That's
yeah.
it. That's
NFL
good.
Street, baby.
It was coming in there. As far as hit rates for positions. So just think about this. the hit rate, the number one hit rate, meaning does the player you drafted in the first round sign the 4-year or 3-year extension as a second contract with the same team?
So that's what he's basing.
That's
it
a basing of,
because some people do one Pro Bowl, some people
it's a hit rate is meaning you drafted a player and they become a foundational player.
You kept them, yeah.
They become, because remember, these guys have 5-year contracts. So you're talking about the amount of players that you sign to 8 or 9 years,
right?
Which means they're spending the majority of their career with it. Center is the most likely hit rate, 92%. Offensive tackle.
And this is first round.
Yes, first round only. Offensive tackles, 59%. Quarterbacks, 50%, which I think is pretty good.
Well,
I was surprised by that.
I'm not.
Okay, explain why.
Because guys like Trevor Lawrence have not done anything yet, but they go, man, we can't let him walk yet. There's guys that get the second contract when they don't really deserve it because of the...
They don't want to get rid of them.
They don't want to get rid of them.
And admit the mistake.
I'm not too surprised by
Okay,
that.
it goes guard, 48%, so the Dallas Cowboys be pretty happy with that today. And then linebacker, 45%. I'm shocked linebackers that high. By the way, wide receiver is the worst. Tight end is the second worst. Safety is the third worst.
Well, I have theories on all of that, too.
Okay, what's that?
You don't often draft a linebacker in the first round. You don't often draft a guard in the first round. If you are, like center, right? How many times do we see a center go in the first round? Very infrequently.
So you're saying...
That means you absolutely
you're going A-lister.
This guy is a stud.
All right. By the way, it's a really good theory.
See, look, the brain is working today, Johnny.
Every once in a while, you really blow me away.
Because you don't just draft those guys off. I mean, quarterback, I'm not surprised that it's 50% because there's, other than last night, there's usually a handful of quarterbacks drafted in the first round every single year because of the desperation factor of it. Now, speaking of other players drafted last night, as you're listening to 97.5 The Fanatic, WPEN HD1 Burlington, Philadelphia, BZ Media Group station, broadcasting live from the Comcast Business Studio, powering possibilities. We'll get to some more text messages on the Eagles' selection of Jihad Campbell last night. But what an interesting day in the NFL draft as a whole. Cam Ward goes number 1 overall to the Titans. Really no surprise there. But the Browns, who had the second overall pick, and all signs pointed to Travis Hunter, they decided to trade back with the Jacksonville Jaguars, who trade up their 34-year-old general manager, by the way.
Which is, well, their 34-year-old general manager who was the right-hand man to Les Snead,
right?
The general manager of the Rams.
So he knows what he's doing.
Yeah, he comes from a good pedigree line.
He climbs up 3 spots. Now, the Browns got a haul for it. Which,
an absolute haul.
My first thought is, man, are the Jags sure about this? Because as great as Travis Hunter could be, again, that's one player. Like,
I got to tell you.
The Jags are one of those teams that are just never good. And so when I see that trade, they got a good player. That doesn't mean the move was good.
I will tell you this. Travis Hunter, to me, blew me away last night how impressive the young man is.
Yeah.
But on the field, he blew me away.
Absolutely.
It was unbelievable to me. He is he's pretty. Gosh, man, he's a good player.
Well, we'll see if the Jags are ever good.
I got it. Well, the thing is that here's what comes into it though. I look at it and say, the Jags to me, I don't give a damn what they've done before hiring this young man to run their franchise.
Right, I got you.
And the thing is, when the Rams hired Les Snead, they were still in St. Louis.
Yeah.
And I knew Les from when he was a scout with the Falcons, and he was a nobody. And Les grew up through the ranks, and when he got hired young, they were like, who is this guy?
Yeah.
And Les Snead is as sharp as a pin. And so I think there could be some real... I judge the Jags from this point on.
Right.
Not
totally
what's been done before.
Totally understood. Abdul Carter is in your division. He goes 3 to the Giants.
I did not like seeing that.
By the way, the Eagles did not trade A.J. Brown to the Patriots.
Yeah, now
in case people are tuning in not knowing what happened.
I was on pins and needles.
Oh, yeah, you were on edge.
I was wondering because I was just thinking that had to be some truth to that because, people were talking about it on.
They didn't trade all 8 picks either to go up again.
No, they didn't. No. I'm shocked.
It's a shame that a lot of you waste your time That's all I'll say.
I'm going to tell you that is a waste of time.
Yeah. That was never going to happen. It didn't happen. And what do you know? Ashton Genty, the name that a lot of people were keeping an eye on. Obviously, so much fun with Boise last year. He goes 6th overall.
Were you
the
surprised by
Raiders.
that? I wasn't surprised because of telling us that Andrew told us that could very well happen.
Yeah, look, I'm not surprised by it, but here's what I'll continue to say. Drafting a running back in the top 10 when you are rebuilding is never a smart thing to do. And the Raiders are rebuilding. Like, I get it that they brought Crosby back, and I know it's Pete Carroll, but, like,
that's what I said to you yesterday.
By the time they're ready to win, he's going to be 3 years into the league, just like Bijan, just like Saquon, just like Zeke.
How much did Saquon's season have an impact on that? Like, the teams try to do the copycat thing.
Probably.
Herb Street talked about it all night last night, is that there is, because 2 running backs went in the top 20 picks, I guess. Mm-hmm. And the kid from North Carolina, by the way, if you haven't watched
Hampton,
haven't watched him play, people bounce off him.
And that was a great pick for the Chargers, because especially with Harbaugh.
But they just went and got what's his name from the Steelers, Najee Harris.
He stinks.
You think he stinks?
I don't like Najee Harris at all.
So you're not a Najee. See, I sort of like Najee Harris's game. I just am surprised they invested that much in it.
Mr. 2.9 yards per carry or whatever. I don't.
Well, but you know what though? That's what Harbaugh wants.
Yeah,
because he wants his defense playing the least number of snaps possible.
That's true.
But I mean, there's so many things that I think were copied from what Saquon did last night.
Yeah, how much of that goes into the Eagles pick, right? You're doubling down on linebacker. You expect the rest of the league to kind of copy what you're doing with the run game.
No, you got him at 31.
You have to react as much as your draft has to be about you. It has to be about reacting to everybody else also.
Tyler Warren goes 14 to the Colts, so the Penn State tight end, and he's not even the first tight end off the board. Colston Loveland went 10 to the Bears.
I was floored by that pick, and
I couldn't believe it.
But the Bears do this stuff.
Well, it's also a new Ben Johnson.
Right.
Probably wanted a new toy to have with his second-year quarterback Caleb Williams.
And the thing is, I sort of trust Ben Johnson's eye.
Yeah.
That I'm going to assume that it's not normal Bears.
I'm sure he made that pick.
Did you enjoy when Clay Matthews took the mic at the beginning?
I must have missed that part.
Okay. He literally takes the mic. Did you watch this, Gunner? So right when they're ready to start the draft, the commissioner introduces Clay Matthews as the ambassador of the draft. Clay Matthews, by the way, looks like he could still play.
Oh, yeah.
Like today. He looks young and vibrant and everything. He takes the mic and he goes, "Ladies and gentlemen," all to Green Bay, and he goes, "I want to tell you, and Commissioner, I'm sorry, but I just got a call from the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump. And I want to read this to you." And he goes, "The President of the United States wants you to know the Bears still suck."
That's awesome.
And it went.
I'm sure that place went nuts.
Oh my gosh. Green Bay, the crowd went nuts.
That's great.
And it was fun. But the minute that he starts saying the President Donald J. Trump,
I'm sure.
You saw Roger Goodell
he's like,
look like
do this.
I thought Roger Goodell pooped his diaper.
Yeah, he's
I honestly
got all
did.
over his white shoes.
He looked like he. Was that? What was that?
Hey, this is a big day for him.
You know what he is? Is that, hey, every time I go to buy sneakers or something,
Yeah.
I text my daughter. And I go,
Yes or
"What
no?
do you think?" And she says, "Dad, too young. Too young." There's a thing called force ripe, and so it's like there's a Jamaican term she's learned from her mom. She goes, "Dad, too young." He tries so hard. Like, it's just, instead of just being the stylish grandpa, the stylish guy, he tries too hard to be, "I'm cool."
When you got millions and millions upon dollars.
Yeah, but the thing is,
you could try things out.
Yeah, but he's trying too much. And the Botox, by the way, stop trying that out.
Walter Nolan, the
He looks
guy
startled.
we talked about for a month plus, he ends up going to Jonathan Gannon, 16th overall.
Smart
to the Arizona Cardinals. And then, of course, the big trade in a couple of big trades toward the end of the first round. The Giants trade up to 25 to get Jackson Dart.
I can't believe they paid that. They paid they flipped first round picks. So they gave up their first round pick. For next year.
Yeah, next year.
They gave up their second and third for this year to get Jackson Dart. Now they get Abdul Carter and they get Jackson Dart. I like Jackson Dart's game. I can't wait to hear DeCecco talk about it.
Yeah.
But there's no way
that you're giving up that much.
A first, a second, and a third? Are you kidding me? For Jackson Dart? Dude, he's a project.
Yeah.
And
that's why you have two quarterbacks in front of him.
See, I don't think you pay that for a project. Like, to me, I pay that for a finished product.
Well, it's also another copycat league. The guy he was compared most to, Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, that's true. And then another big trade, the Falcons
Oh, my gosh.
take 2 picks in the first round. Now, look, they took 2 good players, and they just added to both sides of their defensive line. They drafted Jalen Walker with the 15th overall pick.
Jalen
First time in, forever that they drafted a Georgia player?
My old partner, Buck Ballou, on social media literally dropped to the ground.
Yeah, because they couldn't believe it.
He said for years he's been pissed, and then, of course, we start drafting all the Georgia players.
And then they trade back into the first round to select James Pierce Jr. out of Tennessee, so 2 edge rushers.
And they gave up a fortune to do it.
They gave up
this year's 2.
2nd round pick, 7th round pick, and next year's
1.
1st round pick.
That was dumb.
Now they had to climb up.
Falcons
I think it was it 15 spots?
That was a big.
No,
You had to be a big jump to go.
Yeah,
down.
so they paid a lot because they needed to pay a lot, but I'm amazed by it.
I don't like that player.
Yeah, I know you're not.
And neither does Andrew DeCecca.
Right, absolutely. All right, so crazy day in the NFL draft, and of course, Shedeur Sanders not selected in the first round.
And now I'm rooting like hell for the young man to get drafted by a good franchise that'll develop him.
Yeah, he'll go today in the 2nd round.
I hope so.
Coming up next, how did one of the top 10 players fall to 31? Howie Roseman spoke on that yesterday. Also, as we talked about, what does this mean for Nakobe Dean? Howie was asked about that yesterday and answered it. It's Kincade Salciunas here on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Mike Missanelli, Bill Colarulo, and Ray Dunn. They have a lot to say about Philadelphia sports. 97.5thefanatic.com.
This hour of Kincade Salciunas is brought to you by the Bet Parks online casino and sportsbook app. Live Bet Sports on the Bet Parks app. Play all your favorite casino games. Bet Parks has a great offer, too, for new users. You got to be 21 in Pennsylvania, Jersey, Ohio, or Maryland. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
I don't know why I just had a weird, I'm getting old moment, Johnny.
Dude, screw you, first of all. Screw you, first of all. When I hear any one of you, when Gunn comes in, oh, my back's a little tight, or you and Connor, I'm like, screw you all. But I love you. You know I love you. So what was your feeling old moment?
John
Bastard.
Clark, early in the morning, obviously tweeting out about Jihad Campbell. And cool story that Campbell was breaking down to tears on the phone with Howie Roseman. I'm sure we'll get those videos coming out, right?
I guarantee it.
Because, look, it's his hometown team. And he's talking to Howie Roseman. But this is the feeling old moment. You ready for this, Gunner? He said this is a huge moment for his family being from South Jersey. He loved growing up watching LaShawn McCoy, Darren Sproles, Michael Vick, Jeremy Maclin, and Brandon Graham. And I'm like, oh, man. Those were like my teen years watching
Yeah, hearing
this.
that makes my back hurt, John.
Right? I can only imagine how that feels for you growing up watching LaShawn McCoy.
Yeah, I think when I think LaShawn McCoy, I think I got my first gray hair.
Right.
I'm like, I'm so happy, though, when I choked up a bit when that kid was running down the pathway to get to the hat,
man.
to get to the hat, and he sees the Eagle logo and curves to it and just bangs on that Eagle logo on the wall. He was so happy to be a Bird.
Yeah.
And part of it is, like, when I don't know about you guys, when I had deep concerns, and they went away quickly, and then they ended up proving out true, about Carson Wentz coming to the big city. That, at the time, I'm like, wow, Carson Wentz in this city, how's it going to work? Now, he was so talented, it worked. Yeah. But he started to get enveloped by it. And
the Foles thing didn't help.
The Foles thing destroyed him.
Yeah.
But mentally. But to me, I love the fact that you have somebody that would totally understand this town.
He knows the area because he was probably yelling at the players that we were just talking about.
And I'm going to tell you right now, here's one, too, that can we finally put this crap to bed? I don't want to hear one more Eagle fan do Micah Parsons, he'll be an Eagle. You don't need Micah Parsons now. You got Micah Parsons.
Well, the replacement for that now is Abdul Carter.
Right.
So,
you do not need,
yeah, exactly.
You do not need Micah Parsons. You have Micah Parsons. Now, he's a Micah Parsons type player. He's going to have to prove that he's worthy of that level of thing. But maybe unlike Micah Parsons, he'll show up in playoff games.
Yep, that would be nice.
So that would be great.
All right, Howie Roseman, after the draft last night, he knew that Campbell was going to fall a little bit because of the injury concerns. Take a listen to the general manager of the Philadelphia Eagles.
We get enough information before the draft that we started to feel like it was a possibility in the last few days. And so we had gone through scenarios where he was going to fall. We knew that there was probably a sweet spot that we could try to get up at, and we had done a lot of planning about that. So we understood kind of some of the questions that were going on him. We spent a lot of time with our doctors and our medical staff, ensuring that we were all seeing it the same way. And again, we have a lot of confidence in our edge rushers on this team, and our inside linebackers on this team. But for us, this we thought was one of the best players in the draft.
And of course, that sweet spot seemed to be 22. That's what Ian Rappaport was reporting, that the Eagles did try trading up with the Chargers. But he ends up falling down to 31 where they selected him. It's amazing.
And I had said to you guys earlier in the week off the air that I knew that there was zero chance the Rams would trade with the Eagles.
Yeah.
They were taking calls. But I kept reading about people going, the Rams are shopping the pick. They're going to talk to the Eagles. And I had pretty good information that the Rams were not. I think they were the team that Adam Schefter was talking
that they would block the phone number.
Because I had received that same information.
Yeah.
There ain't any way. The Rams think it's going to be Eagles-Rams this year in the NFC. That the Rams and the Eagles are going to be on a collision course. There was no way that they were Les Snead and them were going to help the Eagles in any way.
Bring it on, man.
And they raped the Giants. I mean, honestly, the Giants for Jackson Dart, they had to be so excited. I mean, the Falcons.
The Falcons, yeah.
They have to be so excited for what they got out of that. It's incredible.
Absolutely. All right. So Howie Roseman continued, obviously long press conference yesterday. What does this mean for Nakobe Dean? He talked about it.
We have a lot of confidence in Nakobe Dean, and this has nothing to do with Nakobe. This had to do with the fact that we had a top 10 talent on our board who we loved the player and we loved the versatility. And, for us, that was it. That was really it. It wasn't about we start drafting for need or we start turning down top 10 players when we're picking in the 30s. It's not going to be good for our football team.
Well, they did draft for need. They did draft for need because they really have, except for last year right at the very end, they have not been able to count on Nakobe Dean to finish a season. And so that was a need. I just didn't believe it would show up on their list of needs, that it would show up in their top 4.
Yeah, at 31. It's amazing.
I swear to you, I was so excited to come to work this morning.
That's great.
Because I love this pick so much. I loved watching this young man play. And I think it was Daniel Jeremiah described him as like a homing missile.
Yeah.
That's just one of those missiles that, like, it follows the target.
Yeah.
It has that technology. His sideline to sideline shooting gaps, his ability to a running back coming around the edge and his angles are amazing. It's so much fun to watch him play. I cannot wait to hear DeCecco because I know DeCecco Adam is 10th on his big board.
Yep, and Andrew DeCecco will be with us for the entire 8 and 9 o'clock hour, last 2 hours of today's show. So coming up next, draft isn't over just because round 1 is done.
No.
Rounds 2 and 3 tonight. What must the Eagles do tonight? We'll discuss that next. Also, if you missed it earlier, who is Jihad Campbell? We'll let some of the experts tell you. And, of course, we'll react with you. Text message, calls, 610-632-0975. It is Kincade and Salciunas on this Friday morning here on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
With the 31st overall pick in the first round, the Philadelphia Eagles select. I'm Brendan Gunn with your Fanatic Sports Update. Yes, with the 31st overall pick in the first round, the Eagles selected linebacker Jihad Campbell out of Alabama. It marks the first time the Eagles selected a linebacker in the first round since 1979. The Birds entered the night with the 32nd overall pick as the reigning Super Bowl champions, but they saw their guy drop and they traded up one spot with the Kansas City Chiefs to select the 2024 first-team All-SEC linebacker. Campbell had 117 tackles, 12 tackles for a loss, and 5 sacks on top of that in 2024 for the Crimson Tide. Howie Roseman spoke after the pick last night and said the Birds had Campbell ranked extremely high on their draft board.
This was a top 10 player on our board. We do not have any long-term concerns with his health. We look at the draft as a long-term opportunity for our team. We have a lot of confidence this guy's going to be here and play at a really high level for a long time.
The draft continues tonight with the second and third rounds where the Birds are going to hold the 64th overall pick in the second round and the 96th overall pick in the third round. The Phillies, they continue their road trip tonight after getting swept earlier this week by the New York Mets. They begin that 3-game weekend series with the Chicago Cubs today at 2:20. Taijuan Walker will be on the mound. This update was brought to you by Allstate. Some people just know you could save money on car insurance by checking Allstate first. So what are you waiting for? Check Allstate first for a quote today. You're in good hands with Allstate. I'm Brendan Gunn on the home of the best Birds coverage for the 2025 NFL Draft, 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
We want to hear from you. Text us at 610-632.
to day one. The Eagles select Jihad Campbell with the 31st overall pick last night, trading up one spot, giving the Chiefs one of their 5th round picks. The Chiefs end up staying in the 1st round as well. So there was no back end of the 1st round trades except for the Jackson
were trying
Dart
to get
25.
in.
Right.
And then they did. They got in at 25.
And gave up a ton.
And then the Eagles are trying to move up. I'm so excited.
So today's day 2, and in a few minutes we'll talk about what we think the Eagles must do here in day 2. But let's play some of the clips from the experts last night. If you missed it, here was Mel Kiper after the Eagles made the selection of Campbell.
21 on the big board. Gritty would have been gone a lot higher had it not been for the shoulder injury. He played great all year for Alabama. 117 tackles, team high 11.5 tackles for loss. 5 of those were sacks. Think about this football team, the way Hall of Fame GM Howie Roseman has constructed it. Half the starters, half the 22 are from the SEC. Like those proven entities, those guys who played for the big powers in the SEC. And Jihad Campbell did, as I said, guys, he would have gone much higher had it not been for the shoulder injury.
All right, so there's Kiper thinking very highly of Jihad Campbell. Again, he would have gone much higher if it wasn't for the shoulder injury. Here's Charles Davis. You'll hear him talk about Campbell a little bit, but he'll also say what all of us have been noticing.
The rules are simple with the Eagles. They take the best Alabama or Georgia player who falls into their lap. Campbell's my number 12 player in the draft, so he'd be a tremendous value at the end of round 1. If not for the shoulder surgery he's recovering from, he'd be a lock to go much higher.
It's amazing. They're all saying the same thing. They would have been higher if it wasn't for the injury. But I love how he goes, yeah, the rules are simple in Philadelphia. Take the best Alabama or Georgia player that falls into your lap.
I don't understand how people don't grasp it, but other teams, I think, are like the Giants look like they might be starting to copy the Eagles a little bit.
Maybe, yeah.
Some other teams. But it's shocking how long it takes. I'm so excited. I tell you again. I can't say it enough this morning. I just never thought they'd do it either. And I'm wrong.
Well, again, I read you the tweet from the Dead Space Monkey, Johnny.
Dead Space Monkey always knows what he's talking about.
The last time they selected a linebacker in the 1st round was 1979.
That shocked the monkey last night.
Yes, it did.
Peter Gabriel. You don't get that, Brendan.
I know Peter Gabriel.
Yeah, Brendan doesn't get the joke.
Is he Sledgehammer too?
I know the name.
Right? Sledgehammer.
And Shock the Monkey?
Yeah, come on, man.
You don't know.
We all know.
Brendan, you don't know Shock the Monkey?
Nah, I mean, was that the rally songs in World War II? What was it?
You're unbelievable. You're unfreaking believable.
That's when the British were coming. That's what they were playing on their speakers.
Paul Revere is blasting that on his
Paul
beats.
Revere wasn't saying the British is coming. They're playing that song.
I want you to rejoin with Peter Gabriel's Shock the Monkey.
I'm all for it.
You'd be shocked. You'd be shocked by the song. It was a huge hit, too.
I love that. All right. Day 2, NFL draft. Eagles have, as of right now, 1 pick in the 2nd round, 1 pick in the 3rd round.
They have 6 picks remaining in this draft.
Right.
A 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 3/5. They have 17 picks remaining between this year's draft and next year's draft. Only 3 of those picks cannot be traded.
Okay.
You cannot trade the comp pick they're going to get for Milton Williams, which will be a 3rd, a comp pick you're going to get for Josh Sweat, which would be a 4th, and the comp pick you're going to get for Mekhi Becton, which is a 5th. So you're going to pick up a 3rd, 4th, and 5th in next year's draft, but you can't trade them.
Right.
Because they're not awarded till after this year's draft.
Okay. And so you have picks that you can move from next year's draft to try to get somewhere this year. You also have your 3 5th-round picks that are all close, 161, 165, 168. You're probably not going to move on from all 3, but I imagine that could entice some teams to go, wait, we could have 2 picks almost back-to-back in the 5th round. That might be interesting for some teams, depending on how they grade out certain players. So, Johnny, let's just go right now.
Okay.
With the idea that they only have the 2 picks, because they could trade back into the 2nd round.
2nd and 3rd, right.
Or they could trade into the 3rd round, and they could end up making 3 or 4 picks today.
Remember that I did hear that.
Yes, you did.
That there could be, the Eagles might be willing to push some stuff to the center of the table, maybe next year's picks.
Right.
In order to get 3 selections tonight.
But let's just go, because this is what we have.
This is what we got.
Pick 64, pick 96. You don't necessarily have to give me a player, but obviously the Eagles went with linebacker, which was a need, but not toward the top of the list.
Not towards the top of the list.
So what do you want to see them do today?
Well, I want to see a tight end.
Yeah, that's number 1 for me.
It's number 1?
Well, because you're losing Dallas Goedert. I do not want to go into a year where you're trying to repeat, right? You are the defending Super Bowl champions, where my tight end 1 is a third, or maybe if they don't draft one today, 4th round pick. Like I need a tight end 1 today.
So you need a tight end 1. How about this? I need a corner, and I don't want to go in that thin at corner. So to me, I need a corner, and I need a tight end. If tight end has to be your number 1, you and I can cooperate, and I'll say, okay, I'm fine with that. Give me the best tight end you can get your hands on. But I honestly hope that they would, and we'll talk about it when Andrew Pacheco comes in. I think you might have to accelerate where you're picking in the second round.
So
you may have to say, instead of choosing the 64th selection,
you're going to
you may have to leverage something to move up. Now, remember, the 5th round pick you used last night, one of them, only got you up 1 spot.
Yeah.
In the second round, you could probably expect that a 5th round pick would get you up like 3 to 4 spots.
And oh, by the way,
3rd round, 5 to 6.
To the tight end point, so we see this often in the NFL.
Okay.
It doesn't always have to be in the 1st round. The run-on position.
Okay.
And a lot of tight ends, Mason Taylor, fell out of the 1st round yesterday. Elijah Arroyo out of Miami is available. Terrence Ferguson out of Oregon, who a lot of people like is
him.
still out there. Harold Fannin, the player out of Bowling Green, tight end out of Bowling Green. And remember, the new quarterbacks coach was the former head coach at Bowling Green. So a lot of people have eyes on him as well. So there's 4 to 5 tight ends available that could go today. And I wonder if there's that run on tight end. So the Eagles might, to your point, need to get aggressive to get ahead of that at some point today.
I guarantee you that this is probably in the discussion, right? That you got to – it's just that you don't want to overpay, but right now this is it's going to be a severe need.
This is a need, right?
But,
like cornerback, I agree with you because I'm not just giving the keys to Keely Ringo.
No.
But I don't have a tight end. Like Grant Calcaterra, I get it.
But you do not have one.
I don't have a tight end 1.
Do you have a starting safety? Like, are you comfortable with Sidney Brown going out there? I mean, you look back to the 2 Super Bowl runs the past 3 years. GJ led the team in interceptions, and he was a huge part communicating on that back end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not a big Sidney Brown fan.
Like, are you comfortable pushing safety to day 3?
No. The thing is, I think Andrew would say, now, you say it for yourself, tight end safety tonight?
Yeah, probably.
But I want a corner.
Tight end 1, yeah.
So I want a corner. But, I mean, I get it. I get that this is what we're facing.
Well, and Andrew Pacheco wants a corner, I think, today as well. Remember, he was even saying that he would have gone with cornerback last night if available.
You have 2.
He ends up going to Buffalo.
This is the important part. So, like next year, you have 2 third-round picks. You have your 3rd round pick, and you have the Jets' 3rd round pick next year. Jets are going to be pretty bad.
Yeah.
So I would maybe be willing to say, you know what? I'm going to part with the Eagles' 3rd round pick next year and keep the Jets one. Like, to be able to move up. If I'm in the 3rd round and I want to get back into the 2nd round, I'd be willing to do that. I'd be willing to give one of them up, because you're then going to have a comp pick for Milton Williams that's going to come at the back end of the 3rd before the 4th.
Right.
So I'd be willing to keep the Jets pick, which I figure will probably be like top 10
in the 3rd round.
In the 3rd round, in order to do that. Like, but they have so much flexibility.
Yeah, with all those picks that they have, as you mentioned, from now until the
17,
end of next year's draft, 17 picks, right?
Which is great. Now, you cannot trade 3 of them.
Right.
They're not realized yet.
All right, give us a text message, Gunner, on anything when it comes to the NFL draft, reaction to the selection of Jihad Campbell, and we'll throw this out now for the audience as well at 610-632-0975. What must the Eagles do today in rounds 2 and 3? And again, we're going off of having 2 picks. They may end up having more, but right now for the conversation, they have a 2nd round pick and a 3rd round pick at their disposal today.
Yeah, we got Lewin Langhorn checking in saying it's really amazing to watch Howie Roseman continue to grow as a GM despite his success, being able to evaluate himself and his performance and reinvent what separates him and his ego from the rest of the GMs around the NFL. The quote-unquote, we've always done it this way, we're going to continue to do it this way.
I remember the story from Reuben Frank that I read to you probably 2 months ago now about the obsession that Howie Roseman is having. And it was right after the NFC divisional round or championship game was when the Senior Bowl was going on. I forget which one. And Howie got home and is watching Senior Bowl film. like not celebrating the playoff win, and like they told the story, like his wife wanted to like celebrate with him or whatever, and he was like, nah, I gotta watch Senior Bowl film at like midnight, by the way, right? Because the games are happening at night. So he's watching the Senior Bowl film after whatever playoff game came to an end, and he's that obsessed. And you know what? That's perfect for this city, man.
It is. And more importantly, too, it is the perception of Howie Roseman. So many people in this town owe him an apology. Like that just, but he helped change the narrative.
Oh, yeah.
I always felt the narrative against Howie was a little too extreme.
He had smartest man in the room syndrome.
A little too extreme because he did a lot of things great. He just didn't do all things great. And right now, boy, they're just.
Here's what happened. He did things great his way, and he thought this was, to the Texans' point, this is what worked, this is what we're going to do. It then completely hurt the Eagles.
It did.
And then he realized, okay, maybe my way of doing it isn't the best way, and I'm going to start learning on other ways to succeed. And
well, he learned.
He's now doing a lot of things.
It's
the
a
right
master's.
way.
It's a master's class right now. What he's doing.
It's been amazing. Don't forget Andrew DeCecco. He'll be in studio 7:55 until the end of the show.
Are we sure
Can't
he's
wait.
awake?
Yeah, I already saw him put out a tweet. He's ready to go. Coming up next, who is still available that may have gone in the first round that a lot of people thought? Can the Eagles repeat what they did last year with the Gene? We go through the list of names next. It's Kincade and Salciunas here on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Tyrone Johnson, Ricky Vitalico, and so on.
7:40 here on Kincade and Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic. Day 2 of the NFL Draft tonight. Reacting to day 1, Jihad Campbell selected with the 31st overall pick for the Philadelphia Eagles. They gave up a 5th-round pick to move up. Now, there are players still available here in day 2. I think one of the biggest shocks was Will Johnson, the cornerback out of Michigan, falls out of the first round. Will Johnson, where's he at on the big board? 11 on the Andrew DeCecco big board. So he's probably going to go early.
Well, that's crazy.
Here in the second round.
I mean, that is absolutely crazy. I mean, it's unbelievable. And Simmons, his 18th, and Campbell, his 10th, went on the last 2 picks. So Will Johnson, Mike Green, the edge out of Marshall, and Shadur Sanders were the only guys left on his top 27. So how about that?
Yeah, DeCecco's the best. Yeah.
Andrew DeCecco did as good a job as anybody, and it's fully documented.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Now, it's amazing. Will Johnson, so DeCecco had him at 11. Kuiper had him at 10 on his big board, the second best corner in the draft, and he ends up falling out of the first round. You mentioned Mike Green, the edge rusher out of Marshall. Now, there's a couple of players that people had maybe potentially going in the first round. Another local guy, Donovan Ezeraku, who went to Boston College.
I think he's off in the first 5 picks.
Yeah.
Like, I think somebody is either going to trade up to get one of those picks or he'll go early.
Now, I know DeCecco wasn't a big fan, but Nick Emanwari, the other safety,
I wouldn't want him.
Out of South Carolina, he's available as well. So those were some of the big names that fell out of the first round. And again, we mentioned Mason Taylor, who it makes sense because the Eagles need that tight end. So here's the deal.
I don't know how you get there.
Can they do what they did last year? Cooper DeJean was
40th.
First-round grade. Some people had him going in the top half of the first round. He ends up falling out of the first round, and the Eagles were able to climb up to 40 in order to draft a guy that they really wanted. Can the Eagles do something like that? Again, last segment, we just did the exercise with the belief that they have picks 64 and 96, right?
Yeah, that's all they have.
Can they make a move, or will they make a move to get their guy today early on in the second round?
There are like 4 tight ends or 3 tight ends that have second grades, that have second, round grade type thing. So I think they watch, they observe how things are going. And if it's sort of like what was going on, I believe the Eagles had already had, most of these teams do, they have potential deals not in place, but they've talked about him saying, look, if we get to this point, would you consider moving back a few spots? Would you consider,
right?
So I'm sure Howie's laying the groundwork without letting everybody know who they want.
It's just amazing.
And that's the key.
It's amazing, his drafting. Let's just last year, right? Quinyon Mitchell, there was talks that he was going to go in the teens. You got him at 22.
Okay.
Cooper DeJean, there was talks that he was going to go in the teens.
There was like 18, 17.
You got him at 40. Jalen Carter the year before, and I understand the reasons why. Jalen Carter, there was talk of him going like 1 or 2. You got him at 9. Nolan Smith, there was talks. I remember reading mock drafts that the Eagles at pick 10 were going to get Nolan Smith. They got him at 30.
There was a good text that I got yesterday about the draft from some well-informed person in the NFL who said to me, if the Eagles draft a tight end before, because I asked the question about Dallas Goedert, if they draft a tight end before Dallas Goedert's traded, that is a damning indictment on what Dallas Goedert's value was. So if that happens, if we see Dallas Goedert traded, like if we see the Eagles draft a tight end when Dallas Goedert's still on the roster, that means the market for Dallas Goedert was ice cold.
Yeah, but you know how it works, too. It's a lot of the times if he's going to be traded or released, so what do teams do?
They just want to wait.
Yeah, if anything, they'll give up a 7th-round pick just so that they can definitely get the player.
They could be the one to get him.
Right. And then even the year 2022, Nakobe Dean, there were people that thought he'd go first round or early second. They got him in the 3rd round. And so last night, Jihad Campbell top 10 player on a lot of big boards. You get him at 31. Could you imagine? Let's just say they trade up somewhere to get Mason Taylor today, another player that some people had going in the first round.
I'm all for it.
This is a credit to Howie Roseman that a lot of people think certain players are going to go earlier. He waits and he gets first round talented players wherever he wants them.
I don't know if I'd be willing to say again, and I just give it to you and not to overwhelm people with numbers. Mm-hmm. We have 64 and 96 tonight. But next year, you have your own first, your own second, your own third, your own fourth, your own fifth. Okay? So you've got 5 rounds there. But you have the Jets' 3rd round pick next year, and you have the Texans' 5th round pick. I would absolutely be willing to play with the Eagles' 3rd round pick for next year and the Eagles' 5th round pick for next year, because I think those will be of less value to try to move around. I would be willing to lay some capital out to get Mason Taylor, to make sure that I'm getting a guy who, by the way, it seems like, and DeCecco will tell you himself, like his highest guy, his guy with the biggest upside at tight end.
Yeah, and oh, by the way, I need it, right?
Yeah, we need it. Yes.
Because I will be borderline devastated.
When
devastated. Dallas Goedert is gone, but there is a way to try to ease that pain, and that's getting your guy today.
By the way, have you watched, there's a good YouTube reel on Mason Taylor that I believe if you would still be borderline devastated, I would tell you, I would roll my eyes at you. Because Mason Taylor has so much more upside than Dallas Goedert in my mind. So much more upside.
It's interesting.
And I love Dallas Goedert.
I still think Dallas Goedert was underutilized at times.
I do too. I absolutely do too. But I don't think when all push comes to shove, Dallas Goedert was Zach Ertz. Zach Ertz just had more opportunity.
Well, yeah, because Carson just...
They also did, look at the receiving core.
They had Deontay Burnett.
And I don't ever want to besmirch Dallas Goedert because I'm a fan.
Yeah.
But to me, if you watch the Mason Taylor reels and you watch who this young man is, I don't believe anybody be going, damn, we're not going to have Dallas Goedert anymore.
Yeah, but I did watch Dallas Goedert literally push a child's, and I don't mean like in the divisional round of the playoffs.
20 targets this past postseason, around 17 catches, a touchdown, and then you think back to Super Bowl 57. I say it all the time. Thank God I don't have to think about that game anymore.
He had a great game that night.
But he was the guy Jalen Hurts always went to when it mattered the most.
And now, though, Gunner, I mean, not to put you on the spot, have you watched anything on Mason Taylor?
No, I mean, I'm not going to pretend I'm in the weeds on it.
No, not going in the weeds. I said just if you get the chance today, I think you'd get very excited to watch
I'm
this
sure,
guy.
but look, you also know that Dallas Goedert's a proven commodity. His biggest issue was health.
But I would tell you that I believe Mason Taylor could be more versatile. I believe Mason Taylor could be every bit, anything you've ever gotten out of Dallas Goedert, I believe Mason Taylor could give you. And I actually think Mason Taylor may be harder to defend. But again, we'll ask DeCecco. He may be a bigger problem for opposing defenses.
Well, DeCecco is already here, ready to go. Looked sharp last night, as did Tyrone and Bill. They were ready to go for the big show. They sounded great last night. Go to the Instagram page or 97.5 The Fanatic's Twitter.
The big show.
And you'll see some of the highlights from
see Bill's
last
daughter
night.
Too?
Yeah, oh yeah, beautiful. What a great day for them. All right, so DeCecco joins us for the remainder of the show coming up next. Start sending in your day 2 questions. If you have some questions on Jihad Campbell, if you have any questions on Jihad Campbell, go for it. But day 2 questions as well for Andrew DeCecco. You can send them in at 610-632-0975. His thoughts on the pick comes next here on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
The Eagles double down at linebacker. I'm Brendan Gunn with your Fanatic Sports Update. Yes, with the 31st overall pick last night, the Philadelphia Eagles selected linebacker Jihad Campbell out of Alabama. It marks the first time the Eagles selected a linebacker in the first round since 1979. The Birds entered last night with the 32nd overall pick as reigning Super Bowl champions, but they saw their guy drop and they traded up one spot with the Kansas City Chiefs to select the 2024 first-team All-SEC linebacker. Last year, Campbell had 117 tackles, 12 tackles for a loss, 5 sacks in 2024 for the Crimson Tide. Howie Roseman spoke last night after the pick and said the Birds had Campbell ranked extremely high on their draft board.
This was a top 10 player on our board. We do not have any long-term concerns with his health. We look at the draft as a long-term opportunity for our team. We have a lot of confidence this guy's going to be here and play at a really high level for a long time.
The draft continues today with the second and third rounds, where the Eagles hold the 64th pick in the second round and the 96th pick in the third round. The Phillies continue their road trip this afternoon after getting swept earlier this week by the New York Mets. They begin a 3-game weekend series with the Chicago Cubs today at 2:20. Taijuan Walker is going to be on the mound for the Phils. This update was brought to you by Corona. Catch Andrew Salciunas for the baseball action this Saturday from 4 to 6 p.m. at the Boathouse in Conchi for $5 Coronas, prizes, and Philly baseball fun. Thanks to Corona. Please enjoy responsibly. I'm Brendan Gunn on the home of the 2025 Best Birds coverage for the NFL Draft. 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
97.5 The Fanatic and Live Casino and Hotel Philadelphia.
Here on Kincade Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic. Day 2 of the NFL Draft begins tonight. We are, of course, reacting to Day 1. Eagles select Jihad Campbell, linebacker out of Alabama. 31st overall. They move up one spot. They trade the 5th-round pick, one of their 17 million 5th-round picks, to the Kansas City Chiefs, basically just to flip the spots. And the Eagles get Jihad Campbell at 31. A player who came in at number 11 on the Andrew DeCecco. Sorry, 10. I'm thinking of Will Johnson. Number 10. Big board of Andrew DeCecco, who was tremendous last night with our guys Tyrone Johnson and Bill Colarulo. You guys sounded fantastic. Welcome in, my man.
Good morning, guys. How are you?
We are doing great, dude.
I'm elated.
What a selection at 31.
Tremendous. That was a tremendous selection. And the board could not have fallen any better, really, if you're the Philadelphia Eagles and if you're an Eagles fan, because they get a player who I envisioned being a top 10 player, Howie Roseman. It aligned with his thought process as well. They take an off-ball linebacker who has edge capabilities at 31, and just a great value. I talked about him on the show yesterday. 6'3", 235 pounds. This is the modern NFL defender. He's not going to leave the field. He has really good range and coverage, which is a crucial quality as a linebacker when you see all these move tight ends and running backs. He can also rush the passer. He had 5 sacks last year.
Nick Saban talked about the fact that the sneaky thing about Jihad Campbell that not enough people talk about is his length, is his arms, the amount of times he disrupts the passing lanes, the amount of times he is able to extend to just force a quarterback to maybe put a ball more at risk or whatever. I could not be more excited, but I thought they were going Mason Taylor. Like when the pick came, I said, wait a minute. This guy's fallen this far. They're not going to do it. And I thought it would be Mason Taylor.
So did I. I mean, at first I was kicking around the idea. It said it's going to be Mason Taylor, and then I told Tyrone, I was like, nah, I think it's going to be Jihad Campbell. They went Campbell. And
you trusted your board.
Yeah, well, yeah. That's my default. So when they went that way, I think that was a home run. That was an absolutely home run pick for the Eagles.
So, how do you think this plays out? Right. So obviously there's the Nakobe Dean factor and everything, but it's just once again the Eagles go, this is the best player available in our opinion. Are they just doing something that works for them and they're just going to continue doing this? I mean, it's now been 4. Obviously, we have to see the kid play first, but it's been 4 years where we're happy, now 5 years, with the first-round pick.
Yeah, it's really tough because I'm a big Nakobe Dean guy. I think he was a critical piece of that defense. Doesn't necessarily get a lot of credit, but you have to take the best player available. You can't worry about where this player is going to fit and worry about offending somebody. You have to take the best player if it's going to improve your football team. The Eagles did that, and Nakobe Dean is still recovering from a torn patellar tendon. You don't know where that timeline is going to leave him. He'll find a way in the rotation as well, but they made their team a lot better by taking Campbell, and to not do that would have been malpractice. And the Eagles last night before that pick, they couldn't line up at linebacker. They couldn't line up. They had Zach Bond, an injured Nakobe Dean, Jeremiah Trotter Jr., and Dallas Gant, who was on the practice squad last year and signed to a reserve futures contract.
I forgot about that.
So they had to do something at linebacker. And as I mentioned on the show yesterday, it's a very shallow group of linebackers in this draft class. So to not get one on day 1 or day 2 would severely hurt your chances of getting somebody that's going to help you in 2025.
When you talk about edge rush capabilities, I remember when he showed up at Bama, and he was considered an edge rusher. Like he wasn't going to be, and the only reason that they ever brought him inside was because of the fact of the injuries that they had, and they got depleted. They lost 3 members of their defense, so he had to adjust, and he adjusted to it quickly. Mm-hmm. So do you think Howie's thinking was, I love the player that I saw at the end of his career at Alabama, or I love the potential of what Nick Saban thought he was getting when he brought him in?
I think the latter.
Okay, so you think the latter.
I think it's the latter, but this is a player who, when they moved him inside, they see the athleticism, the length, and he can do this as well. And to have that kind of versatility, especially in today's NFL, is invaluable. And Vic Fangio, I have to think that this has his name written all over it. He signed off on that, and you're seeing now the team emphasize linebackers. We'll see what they do at safety, but Vic Fangio got to play. I have to think that that's a player that he was very high on.
I'm glad you said you're seeing the team starting to emphasize linebackers. So I want you to expand on this in a second. You're listening to 97.5, the Fanatic, WPEN HD1 Burlington, Philadelphia, Beasley Media Group station. Brought to you by, of course, Comcast Business Studio, powering possibilities. So Andrew DeCecco's with us for the rest of the show as we continue to react to last night's draft pick of Jihad Campbell, and we'll react to the entire first round with Andrew as he's with us for the next 2 hours, and we'll preview day 2. But
with no notes again.
Yeah,
I'm just looking over at them, and I've got notes here. I've scribbled stuff down from last night.
I see John look over at me. He starts laughing. I was like, do I have some hash brown on my face from Wawa?
No, you're just being a football guy, man.
I laugh every time because of your thoroughness.
It's amazing. So our main topic today for the audience, other than just the reaction to the pick, is how happy are you that the Eagles are finally doing what a lot of people have been wanting?
Mm-hmm.
Last year, high round capital for a cornerback. Well, 2 because they did Mitchell and Cooper DeJean. This year, linebacker in the first round. Eagles fans have been dying for a running back. They signed Saquon Barkley. And look, it worked. Like, here's the thing. There's a lot of vindication going on in Philadelphia right now when it comes to the fan base because they have been asking for this kind of stuff. Is it that the Eagles are trying to set a new trend, or are they just going against their norm, their own ways, because they don't value linebacker in the city, or they hadn't until recently?
Yeah, they're just going against the norm. And Howie Roseman really should have prepared everyone for this when he talked about how this offseason was going to look different and is going to go against conventional wisdom. You sign Zach Bond. You make him the priority of your free agents. You sign Saquon Barkley to an extension. Now you take a linebacker in the first round. That's the first time they've taken an off-ball linebacker in the first round since 1979. Jeez. They're going against everything that they've been prone to do in the past. And I think what Howie Roseman is proving to everyone is that he's willing to adapt and change. And yesterday I mentioned that he is so lethal in terms of general managers because he is not afraid to take risks. And that's why you see a lot of folks that are trying to emulate him because he's risk-averse. So,
did you notice any of that last night?
That he what? Yeah,
that people were trying to emulate what the Eagles are doing.
Yeah, but it didn't work out so well for some of the other teams later in the.
I love that.
It didn't.
I love that.
There we go.
All right, if you have any questions for Andrew on the draft,
FGA,
you can start sending them in at 610-632-0975. If we don't have any questions just yet, I do want to hear from the people. Brendan got in for Connor today. What are the people saying so far this morning, Gunner?
Yeah, we do have one question so far. It says, where do you see Jihad Campbell playing most of the time, off ball or on the edge rushing position?
Off ball right now, just because they simply can't line up. They don't have the bodies. But I think eventually when Nakobe Dean's healthy, because he's going to factor into this defense. This doesn't mean that he's now going to be a third linebacker or a special teams ace all of a sudden. Then you're going to see Campbell factor in as an edge rusher as well. Also, when he is playing inside linebacker, his ability to provide pressure up the middle. The Eagles do a lot of sim pressures, so they'll drop an edge rusher and they'll send a linebacker up the middle. They did that a lot with Nakobe Dean last year, so they're going to do that with Campbell as well. And he has the length and the frame to disrupt throwing lanes as well.
Because of his, I'm sorry, John.
No, go on.
Because of his optionality.
Mm-hmm.
Good word.
Thank you. Just stealing a term from Sam Hinkie. Does this mean anything for any of the other guys that are already on the team? We're talking about Nakobe Dean, but Bryce Huff, we're still waiting to see what's the deal with Bryce Huff. I know you would like to see him come back to give him a second shot.
Yeah.
But because he can also line up, does that mean anything for some of the players on this defense?
Yeah, well, as you guys know, I'm a big believer in player development and not writing off a player too early, but that doesn't mean that that's going to stop the Eagles from trying to move him on draft weekend. I see a team like the San Francisco 49ers with Robert Saleh, who's very comfortable with Bryce Huff. He loves Bryce Huff.
Yeah.
He would be a good fit and a good rotational option there. But if they're not just going to give him away for nothing, I mean, you have a pass rusher, that's a valuable commodity in today's NFL. But I don't know if that impacts him that much. He's still going to have to scrap to make the team or really factor in for playing time. But I mean, at 27 years old, maybe a full offseason in the Eagles' defense. Now he's coming in more confident and playing a lot faster instead of trying to read and react.
When I think of the decision that they made last night, it's impossible to not think about that. They did go last night best player available, correct, because of the slide.
Right.
The how strong do you think the pull is for tonight's plan to be needs?
I don't think the Eagles have. I don't think they live that way. I think that they're going to let the board fall to them, John, and take the best player available. Now, what I will say is the top to middle of that second round, and I've been pretty consistent with this, that is the sweet spot. That's where you're going to see a tight end like a Mason Taylor fall, an Elijah Arroyo, Xavier Watts, the safety from Notre Dame. Those are all players who can help the Eagles, but sitting there at 64, your hands are tied. So this is where I could see Howie Roseman potentially being aggressive because there's a lot of talent that they need, and they're going to slot right in that area.
I love it, man. All right, so here's what we're going to do. Obviously, we will continue to get your text messages in on this. We have today's headlines with Brendan Gunn, who's filling in for Connor today. That comes your way next. But for the rest of the show, when Andrew's with us, we're going to react to the entire NFL draft, which I can't wait. Andrew DeCecco's biggest surprises, the best picks, the worst picks. You'll hear all of those coming up toward the bottom of the hour. And then, of course, we're going to start focusing a lot more on tonight because the Eagles have positions that they do need to target. Linebacker was obviously a need, but maybe not toward the top of the list. There are some positions toward the top of the list that they probably need to target. And as you just heard Andrew talk about, maybe they get a little more aggressive for. So we got a lot in store for you. Andrew DeCecco with us for the remainder of the show today. Today's headlines with Brendan Gunn coming your way next. We'll also sneak in a couple of text messages in reaction to or questions for the NFL draft. It is Kincade and Salciunas on this football, I'll say it, Championship Friday, Johnny, here on 97.5 The Fanatic.
The Fanatic signing bonus.
8:11 here on Kincade Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic. Check out the deal of the week. Get 2 Clementon Park tickets for the price of 1. Dive into summer thrills with full-day access to Clementon Park's amusement park and Splash World Water Park. Get this exclusive offer while supplies last at 97.5thefanatic.com/deals. We'll get Andrew DeCecco's thoughts on the entire first round toward the bottom of the hour. We have today's headlines with Brendan Gunn here in a minute, but I do want to sneak in a text message first, either a reaction to the draft from last night, selection of Jihad Campbell, or a question for Andrew DeCecco. What do you got, Gunner?
Yeah, and when you took a linebacker, you know there was going to be the one guy out there that had this opinion with the name we have of a backup sitting on the bench right now. He says, why are we drafting a linebacker? We already have 3 linebackers. When you think about it, we have Trotter on the bench ready to go. We needed a safety or a D lineman. I don't get why we took a linebacker.
Wait a minute.
Can I just step in here real quick? I'm sorry. I know you're the football guy. One guy was drafted in the 5th round. I'm just going to keep it simple. One guy was drafted in the 5th round. One guy was drafted in the 1st round.
And
so just with that logic alone, one player is better than the other. I understand local kid, even though so is Jihad Campbell. I understand son of Jeremiah Trotter. I understand that. And look, he'll be on the team, special teams.
Yes.
But you got to try to find better players. Go ahead, football guy.
Let me expand on this. When you say you have 3 linebackers, you have Zach Baughan, you have an injured player with a complicated timeline, and you have a 5th-round linebacker that played 102 snaps last year. The Eagles like what he's done behind the scenes. He's a sharp kid, but he's a 5th-round player. You don't want to bank on him making that leap forward, and if all of a sudden if it doesn't pan out, well, you're kind of...
And you're high on him.
I like Trotter Jr., but you have a chance to add the best player at that position in the draft. You have to do that. It would be malpractice if you don't. They couldn't line up at linebacker, and now they can. They added the best player available at 31. He was a top 10 player on my board. I was stunned that he was still available.
And by the way, as you said earlier, these guys can be on the field at the same time too, by the way.
Yeah, that's the cool thing about it.
Like,
so I don't think that it's like...
So the Eagles drafted Devontae Smith. They shouldn't have traded for A.J. Brown. Because they already had Devontae Smith. Why get?
Yeah, they already have receivers.
Why get more talented players?
And here's one thing.
Yeah, nobody wants more talented players.
This is something that I say every year about depth, right?
Yep.
Depth is not about the amount of players that you have at any given position. It's about the quality of those players.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
Okay, that's interesting.
Especially when you might need them.
So you can say the Eagles have a lot of corners. Which ones are going to be viable start? Which ones do you feel comfortable starting?
Yeah.
See, this is where, though, that comment, I'm not trying to rip on the texter, but that's where you haven't watched college football. You don't watch college football. Nobody would see Trotter play and see Jihad Campbell play in college and say that they're even comparable players.
Right.
They're not.
All right.
And it's and that doesn't mean that Trotter Jr. won't end up being a part of this future here.
I have high hopes for him.
Yes.
But to be a starter.
So does Vic Fangio, it seems like, too.
Vic likes him a lot, but he needs to get stronger physically. He's a little bit of the slighter side, and he doesn't have that athleticism, so he has to continue to work at that. It doesn't happen overnight. So they had a chance to add a premier player at that position, and I thought they'd hit a home run.
Damn right. All right, time now for today's headlines with Brendan Gunn.
Today's headlines with the one and only Brendan Gunn.
One and only. Brought to us by who there, Gunner?
The one and only Lundy Law. For over 70 years, Lundy Law has been fighting for injured people. If you need them, remember the name Lundy Law, your injury lawyers. Visit LundyLaw.com. That's LundyLaw.com.
I love that he has his own custom open.
I do, too.
It's beautiful, man.
And I think he wrote it.
I did, and then Ray Gunn's brother had to come and steal my sunshine. Is the one and only Brendan Gunn.
There you go.
Nothing better than nailing the draft, and nothing better than your divisional rivals having a mess, kind of, on draft night. I kind of like what the Dallas Cowboys did. We'll get to them in a second. But what are the Giants doing at quarterback? You signed Jameis Winston, you signed Russell Wilson. Now you're trading up. One guy that maybe had an idea of what they were going to do last night, though, was GM Joe Shane's son. He posted on Instagram hours before they drafted Jackson Dart a highlight tape. It made the rounds all over the place. News tipped everybody on the Giants wanted him, and then he deleted his Instagram after that.
Yeah,
his father,
gotta stay away,
his father wanted to kick his backside. The WFAN guys were all over it.
Oh my God, I did not see this at all.
Yeah, Joe Shane's son did that, and it was, I think, 550 or 545.
Exactly, right before the draft.
Yeah,
what a little
bad, man.
Yeah, but you know what? He's walking around going, I was the one that told you to take Jaden Daniels. You guys didn't listen to me.
Well, that's the truth, too.
You know, he's walking around, his chest out, head's held high.
Is it safe to say Jackson Dart's not Jaden Daniels?
Not even close.
No.
That's amazing.
They should have went Shador there, but that's just
Man,
my
I
opinion.
can't believe that he did that.
Yeah, he did do that. I thought you knew that.
No, and
No,
how old is he? He's not like 7.
No, he's like 16.
Yeah, like-
See, I missed all that. Obviously, I was doing the broadcast.
Oh, my
I-
Oh no, he put it out, and he put it out a couple hours before the draft.
Yeah,
so
tips
obviously he
everybody
knows
off.
stuff, and he tips
That's
people off.
nuts.
Luckily, nobody else wanted Jackson Dart in the first round.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it didn't
Now,
matter.
look.
There was no rush on Jackson Dart.
Now look,
Yeah,
if
he
you're
could've
Joe
got him at 45.
Shane, you can't tell your kid anything anymore.
No, you can't let your kid be. No, reportedly the kid was around the war room.
Yeah, no, he's gone.
Man,
No, you
that's
can't
That's
have
a major problem there. You
It's like-
can't have that.
All right, consider this. Forget draft, forget father-son. You're with your boys, and you tell them something about like a girl, and it gets back to the girl.
Oh no.
You're never telling your boy that.
I'm trying.
kind of stuff.
I'm trying to weed out.
Right.
I'm very selective who I tell people, who I tell anyway.
Right. Now,
But
this is the NFL
yeah.
draft.
Thomas Dimitroff let us in the war room once. Let media, some selected media, be in a war room when he was, during the Falcons. We were in a area where we could observe everything, but we weren't close enough to hear the conversations.
Right.
And every one of us, no devices, no phones, no iPads, no nothing.
I like that.
Yeah,
and
it's crazy.
That's the way it should be.
And we were there at 4:30, checked in.
Oh yeah, I imagine.
So there was no before it going. Oh,
You
look
mean
what
you weren't going live?
Yeah,
on,
none of that. And then, by the way, it was social media era.
Yeah.
But nothing.
He wanted the people that talk the least amount.
Speaking of speaking the least amount and the social media era, I'm sure Cowboys fans want Micah Parsons to just shut the hell up sometimes. Last night he was live on his podcast, as he always is, when the Cowboys made their pick, and it was a bit awkward.
And the Dallas Cowboys are selecting Tyler Booker, offensive lineman from Alabama, is the official pick. Hold on. I am excited about the pick. Hold on. I am excited about the pick. Wow, he is a beast. He is a beast. I just wanted to see that on my side of the ball.
Like, how's your guy going to continue to be on podcasts and rip the organization?
Okay, but I don't think did he rip him though?
I wish it was on my side of the ball.
He
He
wanted a defensive
he's talking
player.
about his personal. He's talking about his personal thing, but he goes. He pays a compliment.
Yeah, I didn't take that as a slight.
I didn't take that as a.
But it is dangerous because I get what you're saying. Like you're getting
a slippery slope.
You're getting his immediate reaction, and he almost has to be telling himself, regardless of what the pick is, I need to act happy.
He should have had Joe Shane's kid on the podcast.
Yeah.
Like, if that was
That's a
Darius
missed
Slay,
opportunity.
people would be ticked off about it.
Well, because Darius Slay would rip the kid.
Yeah, probably. That guy sucks. All right, good job, Gunner. Thank you very much. All right,
one and only.
The one and only, Brendan Gunn. All right, so the show continues. So coming up next, obviously we've been talking about the Eagles' selection of Jihad Campbell, but I'm curious what Andrew DeCecco thought about the entire first round because you did the great draft special with Tyrone and Bill yesterday, reacting to every single pick as it was happening. So Andrew DeCecco will answer a couple of questions, the biggest surprise, the best pick, the worst pick, some of the trades. Hear them all next with Andrew DeCecco as he joins us for the remainder of the show on this Championship Friday of Kincade Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
With the 31st overall pick in the first round, the Philadelphia Eagles select. I'm Brendan Gunn with your Fanatic Sports Update. Yes, with the 31st overall pick in last night's draft, the Eagles selected linebacker Jihad Campbell out of Alabama. It marks the first time the Birds have selected a linebacker in the first round since 1979. The Birds entered last night with the 32nd overall pick as reigning Super Bowl champions, but they saw their guy drop and they traded up one spot with the Kansas City Chiefs to select the 2024 first-team All-SEC linebacker. Campbell had 117 tackles, 12 tackles for a loss, and 5 sacks in addition to that last year for the Crimson Tide. Howie Roseman spoke after the pick last night and said the Birds had Campbell ranked extremely high on their draft board.
This was a top 10 player on our board. We do not have any long-term concerns with his health. We look at the draft as a long-term opportunity for our team. We have a lot of confidence this guy's going to be here and play at a really high level for a long time.
The draft continues tonight with the second and third rounds, where the Eagles hold the 64th overall pick in the second round and the 96th overall pick in the third round. The Phillies continue their road trip this afternoon after getting swept earlier this week by the New York Mets. They begin a 3-game weekend series with the Chicago Cubs today at 2:20. Taijuan Walker will be on the mound for the Phils. This update was brought to you by Corona. Catch Andrew Salciunas for baseball action this Saturday from 4 to 6 p.m. at the Boathouse in Conchi for $5 Coronas, prizes, and Philly baseball fun thanks to Corona. Please enjoy responsibly. I'm Brendan Gunn on the home for the best coverage of the Birds' 2025 NFL Draft, 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
It's here on Kincade Salciunas 97.5 The Fanatic on this Championship Friday. As the
That
Eagles,
feels good.
Hell yeah, man. Select Jihad Campbell last night with the 31st overall pick. We're joined by Andrew DeCecco for the remainder of the show. You guys did a tremendous job last night. I had a quick drive in the car yesterday listening to you, Tyrone, and Bill. And then just seeing the stuff that Dylan posted on social media last night was great. I know that you were in your glory being on the air reacting to the NFL draft. So first and foremost, how was last night for you personally before we get into the draft itself?
That was some of the most fun I've ever had on the air.
Nice.
Being with Bill Colarulo, being with Tyrone Johnson, being able to chop it up and have some fun and engage with the audience. By the way, Randall's Restaurant inside the Legacy Club, if you haven't checked it out, please do. It's
awesome.
definitely worth it. They went all out. They promoted us. They supported everything that we wanted to do, and I can't say enough good things. And I do want to give a shout-out to those working behind the scenes. They were working tirelessly to give us that content. Dylan McKinnon, Nate Tennyson working the YouTube as well. Of course, Jen Scordo, and hopefully I'm not forgetting anybody, Mike Vito. But I was just really, really proud of the work that we did.
That's awesome, man.
That was the best draft coverage in the city.
Hell yeah, it was. The Eagles did not trade A.J. Brown to the Patriots.
Yeah, you didn't do enough.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I
you
thought
didn't
was
do enough
missing last
nonsense
night.
yesterday.
Is that I really did think that was missing on the content last night. Just a little thing. When it came to the Patriots pick, I expected a little analysis of it. It was
of trading
over.
up for
it was glossed
from
over.
32 to 4. Come on, man.
Yeah, we don't give that any time. We
All
just said,
right, so let's talk about it. The draft as a whole, Eagles aside, what to you was the biggest surprise of day one of the NFL draft?
well, there's a few. So the fact that there were 3 guards that were taken.
Yeah.
Gray Zabel, when he was taken, I was like, whoa, what is going on here?
Early.
Very early. He went 17, I believe. I had him as a late first-round pick, 32, 33, right around there.
Okay.
And the fact that the Falcons gave up what they did to take James Pierce, I think that was the most head-scratching move of the evening. I'm not a James Pierce guy. I know that but I knew that he was going to get overdrafted because he ran the 4.47 and he has all the tools. But when you have someone like Mike Green, who's still out there from Marshall,
right,
who, from all accounts, mine included, it's a mid-first round guy. He's still there. Donovan Ezaraku, Williamstown, New Jersey native, still there. They could have gotten better players.
Future one.
Falcons going to Falcon.
They could have gotten better players at that same position. Nick Scorton, Texas A&M. I mean, it was just a head-scratching move. They could have traded down and taken James Pierce.
They gave up.
That's what they didn't need to do. That's what I don't get.
Now, I like that they got the double edge. Like, I like that they did that, but
Michael Williams, I like.
Right. But you give up a future one?
That's brutal.
Nuts.
Well,
they're not in win now mode.
It's a GM fighting. No, but here's where you're.
They always try to.
It's a GM fighting for his job.
Ah, okay.
He wants to. So they rolled the dice and didn't.
Right.
The future be damned.
Michael Penix. I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes.
What an absolute disaster.
What other surprise you had from yesterday, and or your favorite pick, best pick, worst pick?
I'll give you. I think that most of the division did a really solid job. I thought Josh Connerly to the Commanders. That is a sound
good
pick.
for Jaden Daniels.
Great value. They didn't try to get cute. Adam Peters, their GM, is doing a really good job. The Eagles have to start paying attention to the Commanders and take them seriously. I know that they do, but they're starting to draft a little bit better, and they're not doing these reaches. They're trying to build around their quarterback. Connerly was fantastic. He'll be a good right tackle for them. And I like Tyler Booker, the guard from who the Cowboys took. A little bit early, probably, to take him, but if you like the player, you take the player.
I said to John, it's going to suck to hate him just because he's with the Cowboys. He made me smile from ear to ear.
I know.
When
he
got
to you guys.
drafted, he looked so happy, and I was just like, damn, you're going to the wrong team.
I was listening to you guys. That's the first thing I did when I woke up. 6 a.m. Woke up, turned on.
You're the man.
We suggest people do that.
Yeah,
often.
that'd be nice. Yeah,
I wanted to hear what you guys were saying. Andrew was the first voice I heard when I woke up this morning.
John Kincaid's the first voice I hear every single day.
That's it.
Amazing.
Hello.
And then Emeka Egbuka, a guy that we talked about a lot yesterday as well, going 19 to the Bucs. I like that pick for them.
Yeah.
Just because Mike Evans is on the tail and still a tremendous player at the age of, I think he's 31 years old now. But you also got Godwin coming off of the injury. So I like that. Baker Mayfield's going to probably throw for 4,000 yards this year.
He kind of reminds me a little bit of a souped-up Chris Godwin.
Yeah.
Egbuka. And Amon-Ra St. Brown's probably the more apt comparison. But, yeah, he fits the bill of what they traditionally look for in terms of their wide receivers. Get him in space, allow him to kind of make plays after the catch. He's going to be tough to bring down and really work the short to intermediate levels. And the Jets, I don't want to forget them. They usually fall on their face. They got it right here. They already have their left tackle in Olu Fashanu from Penn State from last year. Then they go and they get Armand Membo from Missouri.
So you do like that?
I do like that. 6'4", 332.
They're getting ripped, by the way.
They shouldn't be, because they're trying to build their offensive line. How can you rip a team for doing that? I know that a lot of folks thought that Tyler Warren would be the pick, but they ended up going trenches there, and I think that was the right.
I was about to say they're going to go tight end probably today, or I know the Dallas Goedert rumors are still out there for the Jets, because if I don't know how invested they are. Financially, I know they're $40 million invested in Justin Fields, but
why go an old option?
Well, you got a young quarterback in Justin Fields.
They're trying to get him a security blanket. I'm just trying to rationalize what their thought process might be. But I mean, if they're smart, they would try and get Mason Taylor.
Yeah,
it absolutely fascinates me that they would do that. That if a team like that gets Dallas Goedert, it doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, like you take a step forward by taking the tackle, and then you take a step back with a head-scratching move and trading for a 30-year-old tight end. Would be a little curious, but I wouldn't put anything past the Jets,
of course.
Well, we know that.
And then, of course, probably the biggest news of the day yesterday was the trade between the Jags and the Browns. The Browns trade back from 2 to 5. They get Mason Graham at 5, but Travis Hunter goes 2 to the Jags. 2 was the spot that we thought he was going to go. It's just I was kind of surprised that the Jags moved up, and for a lot.
Yeah, they gave up a haul, but I love Travis Hunter.
Of course.
I think Travis Hunter could be a potential Hall of Famer if he lives up to his potential. And they're pairing him with Brian Thomas, who they drafted, of course.
Yeah, that's true.
The other wide receiver.
No excuse for Trevor Lawrence this year.
No excuse. Zero.
Excuse for him.
This is a prove-it year for him. If you can't make it happen with Travis Hunter and Brian Thomas,
you're out.
I mean,
I don't think he's playing both ways, though. I think they will use him occasionally both ways. But Nick Saban said last night he's a shutdown corner. He thinks that is where, and then the offense needs to be a little side gig.
Yeah, he needs to be a little bit more polished as a receiver. But the athletic traits are there, and I think that they're tantalizing enough, John, that they're going to try and give him a spin there at receiver and see what he could do.
He pulls out a tantalizer.
That's great. At 8:33, man, we need that kind of stuff. By the way, Kenneth Grant, you shocked that he went as early as he went?
Yes.
I know you don't
is
think
another one.
as highly as
I circled
some.
that one. That's right. Kenneth Grant. I forgot that he went that high. But
I had the big board in my lap during the draft, man.
That.
And when I saw him go 13, I was like, wait a minute.
I had to scroll down.
He has him low, 29.
Bill was examining the sheet. I said, Bill, you got to go a little bit further down to see him. He was 29. It's like a blueprint off of Jordan Davis, it feels like. They're trying. They took Jordan. The Eagles took Jordan Davis at 13.
Yeah, there were some moves that did make me shake my head.
What else? What was it for you?
Well, I mean, I look at the fact that, like, I thought the Bears' decision was, I don't know why you needed to do that. And reportedly, then when I heard that the Bears were getting phone calls about moving back a short distance, I'm thinking to myself, well, then if you're being asked to move back like 2 spots, I'd have to consider
Ben
that.
Johnson must have loved him. I mean, that's the only thing I can think of.
And you do. A lot of times in the first draft of a new coach, they cater to the new coach.
Look what he did with Sam Laporta after getting him. That's when the Lions' offense completely changed.
That is the truth.
Yeah, so he probably has his eyes on.
He's going to be a tremendous pro. I really do think that he's going to be phenomenal. But more of a pass-receiving tight end. He doesn't really have
not much else. All right, so Andrew DeCecco with us for the remainder of the show. Coming up next, we'll get a couple of text messages. And again, we talked about this when he first got here, but we'll expand on it a little bit more. Did this move have anything to do with Nakobe Dean? Howie Roseman was asked about that last night, so you'll hear him speak on that as well. It is Kincade and Salciunas. Our man Andrew DeCecco is with us for the remainder of the show today. Oh, my God. Jahad Campbell, 31st overall. And, of course, day 2 tonight. It's Kincade and Salciunas here on 97.5 The Fanatic. We want to hear from you, so text us at 610-632-0975. 97.5 The Fanatic, and we are joined by our man Andrew DiCecco for the remainder of the show, reacting to day 1 of the NFL Draft, previewing day 2 of the NFL Draft. What is the life of Andrew DiCecco today, other than hanging out with us for the next hour and 20 minutes?
Well, I'm back doing 2 to 6.
Love that.
And then after that, I am 6 to 7. I'm recapping day 1 and previewing day 2. And then I believe I'm sticking around for another hour after that.
Of course you are. I'm telling you, man, final year running back.
This is like, I feel like Garrison Hurst back in the early 2000s.
Seriously, break the wheels off him. I've advocated for that.
And then Saturday, I'll be doing 11 to 4:30. So for those of you who listen to early birds from 9 to 12, that won't be the case this week, but we'll be back on track next Saturday morning.
with Connor.
Mid-birds.
Right? For a little bit, right?
I'll be with Connor. I'll be with Kevin Cooney. I'll be with Ray, I believe.
Nice.
I'm sure
Leaving
Kevin
me
will
out, dog.
With Big Gun. I'm sorry, man. You're kicking things off at 9. How could I forget?
Kevin is already researching ways to hate on the Jihad Campbell pick.
I feel like, yeah.
No, that's just center field.
No, that's ought to be the Johan Rojas.
And
Nick
Sirianni.
It'll save him from having to deal with the Johan Rojas takes.
Yeah, but then
Which the number 9 hitter in all of baseball, by the way.
Well, then I'm going to have to tell him why Jihad Campbell's going to be a good pick, a good player.
That could work. No, right. I think Kevin liked that pick. He's a smart man.
Hell yeah, he is. All right. So last night, Eagles select Jihad Campbell, and of course, all of us think right away, does this mean anything with what they believe in terms of linebacker? Yesterday, we had this conversation. Could their first-round pick tell you how they truly feel about some of the other positions on this team, like Sidney Brown at safety, Keely Ringo at corner? They go linebacker yesterday. Howie Roseman was asked if this has anything to do with Nakobe Dean. Take a listen to what the GM has to say, and then we'll get Andrew DiCecco to expand on it a little bit more.
We have a lot of confidence in Nakobe Dean, and this has nothing to do with Nakobe. This had to do with the fact that we had a top 10 talent on our board who we loved the player and we loved the versatility, and for us, that was it. That was really it. It wasn't about we start drafting for need or we start turning down top 10 players when we're picking in the 30s. It's not going to be good for our football team.
All right. Andrew, your thoughts on the selection of Jihad Campbell and the future of Nakobe Dean and what Howie Roseman just had to say?
I don't think it's going to affect. I don't think it's an indictment on what the team thinks about Nakobe Dean. It would not even surprise me if Nakobe Dean's a team captain this year, because that's how highly respected he is and how much of an impact I believe he's going to have when he gets healthy. They simply took the best player, just happened to be at linebacker. They go against conventional wisdom here. I would not read too much into it. The Eagles got better, and they had to add another player at that position. If they waited until day 2 or day 3, you're not getting a starter. You're getting a complementary piece who's going to be a special teams maven.
Am I wrong to assume, just because I'm thinking of college, that they would project Campbell as a 3-down linebacker?
I think they do.
Okay. So then, if Campbell's healthy, Bond's healthy, Nakobe Dean's healthy.
But also Campbell can rush off the edge as well. And
that's the next generation of what I was going to get to.
Right. So he can rush off the edge, and that's a valuable commodity. And that's not to say that the fact now that Vic Fangio would have 3 off-ball linebackers who can help you, all of a sudden you might see a rotation based on the defense, based on the offense that they're going against, because Nakobe Dean's very good against the run.
He is.
And he's not as proficient in coverage. Campbell is. So they have different skill sets. Zach Bond can do it all. So I think they kind of had the best of both worlds with those 3 players.
I'm curious. This is a random thought that just hit my head. You know that Vic Fangio was very much involved.
Oh, yeah.
In this selection. There was the story that came out because Vic told the story with Governor Shapiro that Howie Roseman, after the Eagles won the Super Bowl, asked him, hey, Sweat, Williams, Bond, who do you want? And he said Zach Bond. So clearly Vic Fangio has his say with the defense. Does Kevin Patullo have much say this week? Or is this more of a, we got this, Kev? I'm curious.
I think it's the latter. I think they're going to say, look, we have a lot of pieces here.
Yeah.
We have a really good offensive line. Just trust us here. We're going to take care of you when we can. But they're not going to force it. Vic is able to dictate what he wants to do.
Right.
When you've been around that long and you have that track record of success and you know what you want to be able to run your scheme effectively, you have that kind of pull. Kevin Patullo, you're a first-year play caller. Yeah, we'll take care of you. We'll let you know. Yeah, we'll be in touch.
All right. What do we got on the text line, Gunner? Either a reaction to the selection of Jahad Campbell, any other reactions to day one of the NFL draft, or, of course, questions for Andrew DeCecco as we get ready for day 2 tonight.
Yeah, we got a quick one. It says, was happy when they made the pick last night. I was happy when I woke up, and then I remembered the Phillies were playing, and that kind of ticked me off. And then we got Sean and Cinnaminson saying, since we didn't get Starks, is Xavier Watts the next target tonight? Also, do you think the Eagles could look to sign Justin Simmons if they don't draft a safety?
Well, I know Brendan Gunn, our own, is hoping that they take Xavier Watts. However, it's important to know that he's a little bit older. He's 23 and probably going to be, I think, 24, John.
He'll be 24 before the end of next season.
Before the end of next season.
When we're getting ready to win the Super Bowl.
So
back-to-back.
I do think they need to take a safety. But at 64, if they stay at 64, Andrew Makuba from Texas would be a really good fit if you can get past him being undersized, that 5'11", 186. 5 interceptions last year. He transferred to Texas from Clemson. One of the smartest defensive players in this draft class, one of my favorite defensive players in this class, period. I think that would be a good fit. If they don't get one at the end of tonight, Justin Simmons would have to be in the equation. You don't just want to hand the position over to Sidney Brown.
Can't.
Nor do I think that they would.
Be your plan.
Nor do I think that they would. I don't think Vic would sign off on that.
Yeah, they're too smart.
Not without viable competition.
All right, what else we got so far on the text line, Gunner?
Yeah, oddly enough, I'm not just reading these questions because they're Notre Dame mentions, but someone else.
That is oddly enough.
Someone said,
prioritize those.
If they don't end up with a Mason Taylor or another guy in tonight's 2 rounds, could you see the Eagles looking to trade for a Michael Mayer from the Raiders?
I don't mind that.
I could, but here is the thing. If you move off of Dallas Goedert and you trade for Michael Mayer, it's all hypothetical. Where does that leave you? We don't know.
Mayer, though, right?
But we don't know if he is going to be the answer, the guy who can be that tight end for your franchise for the next 7 or 8 years.
Right.
Is he a stopgap? We don't know what he is.
And that's not what the Eagles do.
Right.
Selleck, Ertz, Goddard, they don't do stopgaps.
No, they draft players and they grow and they develop them. So it's kind of hard to see that as, let's say they execute that move. I mean, I don't know how you would feel about it, but for me, I'd be like, well...
I'd be borderline devastated.
Well, what is he? I mean, he has like 35 catches in a season.
You do believe, though, in a different situation, he'd be different here, right? Or do you not project his skill set to be
I think he could be.
Right.
But if you draft a young player that you put all this evaluation and prep in, you know that you can develop them and they don't have any bad habits because you're going to teach them the way that you want him to do things. You're getting a player like this where it's sort of you like the qualities, you like the traits. He's really good after the catch at Michael Mayer, but you don't know how he projects.
And I think
he's going to be the tight end. He's going to be the tight end one, and largely a mystery.
Right.
All right. Curious, just to kind of tie the bow on the Walter Nolan discussion, because obviously he was somebody that we talked about for a long time. Your thoughts on him going 16 to the Cardinals last night?
Yeah, I didn't even have defensive tackle as a need per se for the Cardinals, but Jonathan Gannon takes the best player on the board. That's a great pick. It's kind of hard to go against it. He added Josh Sweat in free agency. You get Walter Nolan in the draft. They're starting to put some pieces together there in Arizona. It's taken a little bit of time, but I think Jonathan Gannon has them headed in the right direction.
What did you make of everything? Because remember, he was going top half, then he's 32 in mock drafts. Now he ends up being in the top half. Is this... people were trying to find things to maybe be worried about? Like, what happens in the pre-draft process where a player can be all over the place on a draft board like that?
Well, a lot of times, Andrew, and NFL teams have this player rated relatively where they go on draft night. It's a lot of us on the outside. You start to see, you hear different things, so that may alter the way that you view the prospect. So he could be going late one, mid first round based on intel that you get throughout the process, and to the point where we were at yesterday morning and I said he's a top 17 player. He goes 16 to the Cardinals. Sometimes you have to get over some of the quote unquote red flags.
Right.
That's not going to be a fit for every team. Like Mike Green is still available from Marshall.
It's amazing.
He has a red flag, but
and the red flag being
well, I don't like to talk about. I don't like.
Okay, good.
I don't like to get into that.
Is it something that would if you were in a front office on a scale of 1 to 10, what would you put his red flags at?
6 or 7.
Okay, that's high for me.
And the thing is, the Eagles have some things that are non-negotiable.
Right.
So,
And this is
Could be.
one of those
But-
things.
but-
Like he's not coming to the Eagles.
Right. So my point is with Walter Nolan is a lot of his quote unquote concerns weren't anything that were overly drastic, if that
Right.
makes sense. There were a lot of teams that were able to move past it. It wasn't anything that any team should be worried about.
Right. Absolutely. All right. We still have more. Obviously, an hour plus more with our man Ange DiCecco. So coming up next, we'll go through the list of players that are still available after round one, much like we were just talking about now. Who is Andy DiCecco most surprised by that is still available? And do the Eagles maybe have their eyes on someone? How aggressive could they be on day 2 of the NFL draft? Do we have another Cooper DeJean-like moment this year? It is Kincade and Salciunas, our man Andy DiCecco here for the remainder of the show here on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
The Eagles pick a linebacker in the first round for the first time since 1979. I'm Brendan Gunn with your Fanatic Sports Update. Yes, with the 31st overall pick last night, the Eagles selected linebacker Jihad Campbell out of Alabama. As just mentioned, he's the first linebacker chosen in the first round since 1979. The Birds entered last night with the 32nd overall pick as reigning Super Bowl champions, but they saw their guy drop and traded up one spot with the Kansas City Chiefs to select the 2024 first-team All-SEC linebacker. Campbell had 117 tackles, 12 tackles for a loss, and 5 sacks in 2024 for the Crimson Tide. Howie Roseman spoke after the pick last night and said the Birds had Campbell ranked extremely high on their draft board.
This was a top 10 player on our board. We do not have any long-term concerns with his health. We look at the draft as a long-term opportunity for our team. We have a lot of confidence this guy's going to be here and play at a really high level for a long time.
The draft continues tonight with the second and third rounds, where the Eagles hold the 64th overall pick in the second round and the 96th overall pick in the third round. We'll see if there's any movement on that front as the days go on. The Phillies continue the road trip this afternoon in Chicago to take on the Cubs at 2:20. Taijuan Walker's going to be on the mound. They look to bounce back from that earlier week sweep by the New York Mets. This update was brought to you by Batteries Plus. Remember when you had a guy, someone who could fix everything? They still exist at Battery Plus. Their expert knowledge on batteries will have you on your way and good to go in no time. Batteries Plus, the experts in charge. I'm Brendan Gunn on the home of the 2025 Best Birds NFL Draft coverage, 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
Hall of Fame baseball insider Jason Stark.
Look, as much as I love Brandon Marsh personally, I don't see how he's...
words that people don't like hearing, Gunner. That's what you miss when you're sitting there.
Now I'm curious.
You're allowed to drop in anytime, man.
Moist, mucus.
Now I'm curious. Now I'm staying in here.
Curd.
Yeah, I don't like the word boil.
Whoa. By the way, do you have a gosh, what's the name? I got to think of the name of the place to go eat. Is it Yards?
Yeah.
That has the curds?
Oh yeah, cheese curd, like a fried cheese curd bite. Delicious.
No, dude.
Delicious.
I never had it.
Oh no.
Brother.
No,
I have mozzarella sticks.
No,
No, but it's better.
No, I'm telling you, it's better than a mozzarella stick any day of the week. But you don't open the door to hell. I'm trying to be all good now and doing all these things. Those cheese curds are
fried cheese curd, delightful.
They're spectacular. And
we are due for lunch sometime soon.
We
John.
are, yes, and we should be able to eat stuff like
Damn
that.
right, man. All right, so what was your biggest surprise yesterday? Not in terms of players selected, but players that did not get selected that are available here on day 2 of the NFL draft.
Yeah, great question, Andrew. A couple defensive ends, Donovan Ezaraku and Mike Green. I would also say Mason Taylor, because all of the information that I gathered leading up to draft night was that he was probably going to go first round. And I certainly thought that once you saw Colston Loveland go to the Bears, Tyler Warren comes off the board at 14, it really suggested there might be another tight end going before the end of last night, and that didn't happen. I imagine he's going to go by 35, but yeah, those were some of the curious ones for me.
Now, based off of your big board here, at number 11, Will Johnson does not get drafted last night.
So he does have the knee injury that I think medically it maybe scares some teams off. In the second round, maybe you might see that. I don't suggest the Eagles do that because of the Sidney Jones. That's going to conjure shades of that.
I said to you, I texted you last night.
I did see that, yeah.
No, I'm like, no.
We talked about this in post-show headlines probably last week. The pick that we hit, like that we wanted and we were right, and then the pick that we were wrong about. I was definitely interested in Sidney Jones that year. Because I was like, man, second-round pick, you're getting a first-round talent, a top first-round talent. And then I was quickly reminded that Pac-12 cornerbacks aren't that good.
Now, which one? Well, here's an interesting question, not to put you on the spot.
Put me on the spot.
When certain players are drafted, do you ever have that inkling that, I don't think they're going to make it? I didn't really like what I saw from them. Like, for me...
Yeah, I get that every once in a while.
J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, I was like, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kayvon Wallace. A lot of people were texting me. The Eagles just drafted the second coming of Brian
Dawkins.
I said,
it was only because he went to Clemson and played safety.
I said, dude, he's going to be a fourth safety. I said, based on everything that I've seen, there are a lot of blemishes.
Taylor. I don't believe in guys that don't play the sport.
Well, that's a strange thing.
You're going out on a limb.
I'm going to tell you that when I looked at Kayvon Wallace, I liked the pick, and I had watched him play, and I thought. Still developmental, but I thought they were going to turn him into something. I really did. Yeah, I did. I missed the boat on that.
You know what?
I remember first knowing you and talking about that and having that conversation. You won't remember it. And we had the conversation, and I brought that up, and you're like, nah. Because you don't entertain. If you don't believe in something, you just go. You don't have a deep conversation about it. You just
He'll
sort of go.
Explain why.
But he'll just sort of go, nah. And it was one of the first ones.
I liked, and then he's ended up having a better career since leaving here, Mac Hollins. Now he drives
Mac Hollins.
Yeah, I did. There was something about him that I liked.
sort of did too.
I did not.
The dude was an athletic freak. Now the thing I don't like about him is he's overplaying this "I'm weird" card. Like
walking around with bare feet everywhere.
Yeah, the
riding
whole
his
like
bike.
everything about Mac Hollins, I'm kind of out on.
Just look at me.
Yeah, no, it's just who I am.
But
It's like
that.
you are
trying
telling
to
everybody that you want to be this person.
I didn't really like him because I think that when he was drafted here, a lot of folks expected he was going to be a starting outside receiver, and you have to always look at the player and what their role is going to be asked to. You don't necessarily want to label somebody or try to lift them up to be something that they're not.
Fourth round pick.
The fourth round pick, and he had a really good preseason. I remember it was Sam Bradford threw him a pass on that drive where he went like 7 for 7.
10 for 10.
10
I still
for 10.
remember it was Fan Fest, first ever Fan Fest.
Was during that game?
It ended, and then preseason week
game.
number 3 against the Packers.
He stiff-armed the defender, ran in the end zone. Everybody's like, there's the wide receiver one. He was also an older rookie, so
Yeah, okay.
I'm out on that. The guys
Well,
that are
the fourth
24,
round,
guys
you
that
know.
are 23, 24.
Well, at least it's not your first round pick who wants to be a fireman. Like, I'd rather
he's
have
26.
It's terrible.
have that.
That
You're
was an
listening to
abject
By the way, you
97
wouldn't recognize him today if you saw him.
Who, Danny Watkins?
Yeah, my buddy Father Ed married him.
Oh, really?
Married him. Yeah, he married him, and he looks like if he walked through the halls of this
You'd have
place,
no idea.
In a good way, right?
He's
in
like
a good way.
He's like 150 pounds less.
Because Justin Blackman popped up this week on Twitter, and he's unrecognizable in a bad
He's not.
way.
He's not Troy Polamalu.
I still haven't seen that picture, but Justin Blackman looks 50 pounds heavier in his face.
Troy Polamalu, by the way, I was off on the math. He's 85 pounds heavier. Like you wouldn't recognize
That big,
him.
huh?
You wouldn't recognize him. First of all, he looks older. The haircut looks a little bit different, and he's just rotund.
Interesting.
That's sad, man. Well, the Justin Blackman
The Justin
story.
Blackman one, yeah, it's horrible.
That's really rough.
You're listening to 97.5 The Fanatic, WPEN, and WPN HD1 Burlington, Philadelphia, BZ Media Group station, broadcasting live from the Comcast Business Studio, powering possibilities. So, of the players that you were surprised that made it out of the first round, are any of these guys that you think the Eagles would try to target today, if possible?
I do, but they would have to trade up for some of them.
Well,
They would-
right.
Like a Trey Amos, the corner from Ole Miss. The Eagles like him. They brought him in for a 30 visit. I still believe that cornerback is a strong need for the Eagles. I think that they need to address it tonight to add some competition to Keely Ringo and Adoree Jackson. Amos is a player they really like. Ezaraku, Mike Green, those players are going to go earlier, I would imagine. But you never know. Sometimes the board's a little bit unpredictable. Xavier Watts, if they want him, they're going to have to trade up. If they stay at 64 and they address safety, Andrew Makuba, the safety from Texas,
who you've talked about,
would be a target there realistically that I think would make some sense.
If you're at 64, give me a number where you'd have to go from 33 on, because 33 will begin that second round, to get to these value guys. What's the lowest number they could trade up into?
55, 56.
Okay. Would you be willing to give up one of next year's third-round picks?
If it's for like a tight end?
Well, no, you're going to be to move up, yeah, and then you'd have the option to do that.
Like, if it's a player that they believe can be a starter next year, I think you have to do that.
Because-
you don't worry about the compensation.
Yeah.
You
Because
make
you
sure.
can easily get there. From 64, you can easily get to 55. A third-round pick can get you into the 40s. Can get you, like, you could get to, if you give up your number 3 next year, because you have the Jets, too. I wouldn't give up the Jets. I'd save that one. But if you give up your 30, your third-round pick next year, you should be able to move up into, like, 40.
And
Virginia.
that John might get them Mason Taylor if they're able to do that.
So if you're willing to do it, you have 2 number 3s next year, plus you have a compensatory 3 coming for Milton Williams. But you can't trade that because that doesn't come part of it.
Darius Alexander is a defensive tackle who we haven't talked a lot about from Toledo. He's 25 years old, but he's a player that a lot of teams like. That's the reason why he didn't go night 1. He has the talent to be a night 1 player, but he's probably going to go high-end second round. That's a player that if I'm the Eagles, I probably wouldn't take because of the age.
Okay.
But, yeah, I mean, there's so much talent here at the top of this second round to the middle of it that I think that it would serve the Eagles well to use some of that draft capital that they have and trade up to make sure they're able to secure some of that talent.
All right, Gunnar, what do we got on the text line coming in, either on the reaction to Campbell or questions for Andrew DeCecco?
Yeah, we got somebody checking in saying, I can't believe John's gone this long without mentioning Gilly the Kid popping up at Shador Sanders.
No, okay, you can bring it behind the scenes.
I texted you right
bring
away.
Bring it behind the scenes. Okay, last night in the group text, it blew up.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, Gilly the Kid, I'm telling you right now, I got it. I'm looking at the Bet Parks app right now. Gilly the Kid is going to be in Vatican Square when the next pope comes out to greet the Catholic population.
Blow the whistle.
There's going to be Gilly, and he's going to be there.
There's no more smoke coming out. They're playing blow the whistle.
There's going to be smoke if Gilly's there. I promise you that. But Gilly the Kid will find a way and incorporate him into that. Maybe even Pope Francis's funeral. Maybe Gilly the Kid will come dancing down the aisle.
What about his friend?
Where's Waldo?
For God's sakes, is the 15 minutes over yet?
You know the big hat that he wore yesterday? Does he wear the Popal big hat?
He might. The The jinx is on.
He'll wear the hat with the propellers on it.
So, I mean, seriously, it's like can you imagine that?
So I loved it when I saw him because you're the first person I thought of.
Hey,
man.
Shedeur, you know what we're going to do? We're going to have Gilly the Kid at your draft party.
Hell yeah, man.
Yeah, that's great, Dad. And thanks for having me in front of a giant wall of Shedeur Sanders merchandise that people can purchase.
All right, what do we got?
Thanks,
What do we
Dad.
got? What do we got in the text line?
Thanks, Dad.
We got Sean checking in saying, when I saw Campbell there at 31, I thought to myself, he's a great player, but there's no way the Eagles are going to take a linebacker in the first round. I thought they'd go with the offensive lineman from Ohio State or Will Johnson as well. But when we actually selected Campbell, I was hype.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard to find any fault in that pick.
Yeah.
They went with the best player available. That has been their approach over the last several years. And not only that, you could take a good player, but you have to have the infrastructure in place to develop and grow that player. And I can't say enough good things about the Eagles' assistant coaches. Bobby King was one of the biggest winners last night, the Eagles linebackers coach, because now he has another player that he can mold much in the same way that he did with Zach Bond and Nakobe Dean.
We're just going to get him, by the way, which will get him a nice job down the line.
I think he's going to be a future defensive coordinator. I really do.
Were you surprised, ultimately, that it was not forget the talent, just position? Because some Dead Space Monkey, who I've mentioned a couple of times, he tweeted this in earlier.
That's a real account.
He's getting a lot of
last time the linebacker drafted in the first round by the Eagles was 1979. So knowing that, were you surprised at all with the selection? Because this is different for this is different for the Eagles. A good difference,
considering that Josh Simmons was there.
Okay,
offensive tackle, potentially the heir apparent to Lane Johnson down the road. Also, Donovan Ezeraku, who the Eagles like quite a bit, was still there. But when they trade up like that, and that's not always an indicator that the Chiefs were going to take that player, but they're blocking other teams from potentially trading up with the Chiefs to take that player. That meant to me that was somebody that had a premier grade. And Jahai Campbell, when you look at the board there that I have, that was the obvious choice.
Number 11 on the Andrew DeCheck. 10. Damn it, I keep on saying 11 because
Why do you keep saying 11?
Will Johnson. That's who my mind's on right now. Great work, Andrew. Fantastic.
Appreciate you.
All right, coming up next, we kind of went through the picks you would have to give up to trade up.
Yes.
Let's try to figure out what the Eagles' strategy will be tonight, because there's 2 rounds. There's 2 selections that they're going to make. What's the strategy? Best player available, position of need, aggressive nature. What's the strategy for the Philadelphia Eagles tonight? We'll discuss that next. And, of course, your text messages as well. It's Kincade Salciunas with Andrew DeCheco here on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Mike Missanelli.
The home runs are ridiculous. Like, I hate guys that nibble like him. He's a nibbler. And so when he misses...
excited. I'm sorry. It was a fun night last night. Day one of the NFL draft. And, of course, excited for day two. My apologies. All right.
It's all right.
Doesn't help.
We're all dopey from time to time.
Doesn't help that it's Friday either. I'm fired up, man. Big weekend.
That's good.
I got the boathouse tomorrow.
Oh, that's fun.
I got date day today.
See, I love that.
Nice. You know? Yeah, Christy's off today, which is
are you
blue moon almost.
Are you cooking?
No, we're going out for lunch. And then
lunch.
Actually, I am.
Lunch date.
I'm grilling a little steak tonight.
Yeah, man.
Part of our date day is also hitting up the Amish market and getting some choice beef.
So okay.
Nice.
So
on the grill.
So Andrew texted me last night. I said, "Yeah, man, I'm rocking the sports coat. I got all that." He goes, "Yeah, I'm on the grill." What were you grilling last night?
I made some just chicken, but with balsamic vinaigrette. It was marinating for like 2 hours in there. Put down the grill instead of doing like olive oil or anything. Cooks in, and then you did the balsamic vinegar on top.
That sounds tremendous.
With a caprese salad on the side.
Look at you, man, Chef Boyardee over here.
Look, man, I know my way around the grill.
That's good. I
know my way around the kitchen. All right,
good stuff, man.
I'm the one that's home at 11 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, but it takes effort to do that. I mean, you get up early.
Yeah, but you know what? When I go to the grill, it's an excuse to bring out a beer, which is beautiful.
I'm trying to give you a compliment here.
Thank you. I appreciate the compliment.
It takes a little extra effort. It'd be very easy to do DoorDash or whatever it is.
Tell my wife that. All right, so what's the strategy today? The Eagles have 2 picks right now. They could end up having more depending on what they do with next year's draft picks. They could just finish with 2, but maybe move up. How aggressive do you believe they will be today? Who they will target position-wise? Because you don't have to give me a specific name, but linebacker was a great pick last night. Not toward the top of need for the team. So what do you believe is the strategy for the Philadelphia Eagles in the second and third rounds of the NFL draft today?
I do think they're going to be aggressive, Andrew. I think Howie Roseman has proven that he's willing to take risks, and you're going to see him do that. Cornerback. I keep going back to cornerback. That's a position that now, after seeing how Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean did, I think they might be infatuated with trying to get another young player in there to grow with those players. That's a position of need, and it's also a premium position in the NFL. Yeah. So that's one that I could see them doing that for. Trey Amos is the player I keep going back to because there is some interest there with him. He's a top 40 player. He might be 40 on my big board. So if they're able to go up there and get him, that would be the spot.
So would that be an indictment on Keely Ringo, or?
Well, I think you could look at it that way, but for me, you're taking a player who you really like, and you're going to throw him out there and compete with Keely Ringo and Adoree Jackson and provide that competition. Because I think right now, I'm a little underwhelmed with the Keely Ringo Adoree Jackson competition.
Okay.
I like Keely Ringo a lot, but you have to look at it in terms of, can he be an every game starter? I don't know that you want to just go with it and say, yeah, I think he'll be okay, and then you move forward with that, and then all of a sudden it doesn't necessarily pan out, or teams are targeting him and he's getting penalized a lot, and then all of a sudden you're wondering, why didn't the Eagles address that in the draft or free agency? Well, if you have an opportunity, you have to get that player and let the best, you kind of sort it out in training camp.
You know how you said it doesn't reflect on, we've been saying today, it doesn't reflect on Nakobe Dean because of what they did. If they do pick a corner, though, will Howie Roseman come out and say the same thing?
No, because here's the thing. At the Combine, when they were asked about Keely Ringo, no, it was the owners' meetings. Nick Sirianni offered a very lukewarm response as to Keely Ringo, and does this mean he's going to be a starter? What do you think? What kind of confidence do you have in him? He kept saying it's early, we'll have to wait and see. There wasn't that ringing endorsement.
Okay.
Which is really consistent with what I've sort of gathered. Obviously, they like them enough to draft them, and they work with them, they develop them. But how does a player project as a full-time starter? You can have all the physical attributes that you want, and he does. But if you don't have the mental acumen, that's where it comes into play. Vic's defense, you have to be able to play within the scheme. You have to be technically sound. What I saw from Keely Ringo is an athletic player who sometimes bails on his technique. He grabs. That's going to be prone to penalties, and that's going to put your defense in a bind if he's not able to rectify that.
How many picks do they make today?
I'm going to say one.
One pick today?
I'll say one.
So that means a big trade up. So you're giving up today. You're giving up your third round pick for this year.
That's what
I'm going to say one, just because I think Howie's going to I think Howie's going to do some be aggressive.
So it's a splashy early day. Like, we're done early today.
Unless
Yeah,
they
I
would
think
trade
so.
back in later, but you're saying you think there's going to be one. That's bold and beautiful.
Only because there's so much talent in that second round that I have to think that if you want a player that's going to help you and be a starter, you have to give up something to do that. And pick 96 could be a casualty.
How about this? I'm going to say they take 2 tonight,
Okay.
and I'm going to say they trade 3 future picks.
Well, that I could also see.
Like, they're going to go into next year's stash, and they're going to go into Saturday's stash, and they're going to draft 2 players today.
You see, your theory, John, makes a little bit more sense because they need players.
My theory on the draft
players.
never makes more sense than yours.
But they need to fill out the depth chart.
Yes.
And you need players. But I think to get a premium player, they're going to have to give up something, and that could mean having a forfeit 96. Who knows? Dallas Goedert, and we talked to Tim McManus yesterday, of course, who covers the Eagles, does a great job for ESPN, but he called in and he mentioned that Dallas Goedert, it may not be night one, but it could be throughout the process.
Well, because here's the thing. I imagine they try to find their way in the 6th or 7th rounds somehow. Because right now, all you have left is your 2nd-round pick and 3rd-round pick in today. The 4th, and then 3/5.
I would say if you could flip one of those, maybe it's a pick swap too, like where you go, you trade the 5th as part of a deal to move up, and then you get a 6th or 7th back.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
I can't imagine they're done at 168 is their last pick. I can't imagine that ends up being their last pick.
No.
Because you want
there'll be a
special
6th or-
teamers, right?
Yeah, at least guys to fill out the roster. You need to bring 90 players to training camp. So why not draft a player and maybe you take a flyer on somebody and it really pans out.
Right.
Like a Patrick Johnson, for example, who made the roster every year since being drafted in the 7th round in 2021 out of Tulane.
Right. Or you take a flyer, Jalen Mills was a 2nd or 3rd round draft grade, and obviously there was off the field issues that had him drop to the 7th round. Or you draft another rugby player out of Australia, and then you see what happens. I mean, it's worked out for him.
You go with traits on day 3, late day 3.
Yeah.
You don't play it safe there. That's where you kind of go for broke.
Right, absolutely. All right, still to come with our man Andrew DeCecco. We're going to check our text line. Questions for Andrew or reactions, or if you want to give a say on what you want to see the Eagles do today, send them in at 610-632-0975. Around the room, we will give our wish list for day 2 of the NFL draft. It is Kincade and Salciunas, our man Andrew DeCecco, with us for the remainder of the show here on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
With the 31st pick in the NFL draft, the Philadelphia Eagles selected. I'm Brendan going with your Fanatic Sports Update. Yes, with the 31st overall pick last night, the Eagles selected linebacker Jihad Campbell out of Alabama. It marks the first time the Birds have selected a linebacker in the first round since 1979. The Eagles entered last night with the 32nd overall pick as reigning Super Bowl champions. But when they saw their guy drop, they traded up one spot with the Kansas City Chiefs and selected the 2024 first-team All-SEC linebacker. Campbell had 117 tackles, 12 tackles for a loss, and 5 sacks in 2024 for the Crimson Tide. Howie Roseman spoke after the pick last night and said the Birds had Campbell ranked extremely high on their draft board.
This was a top 10 player on our board. We do not have any long-term concerns with his health. We look at the draft as a long-term opportunity for our team. We have a lot of confidence this guy's going to be here and play at a really high level for a long time.
The draft continues tonight with the 2nd and 3rd rounds, where the Eagles hold the 64th overall pick in the 2nd round and the 96th overall pick in the 3rd round. The Phillies continue their road trip this afternoon after getting swept by the New York Mets earlier this week. They begin a 3-game weekend series today with the Chicago Cubs today at 2:20. Taijuan Walker's going to be on the mound for the Phils. This update was brought to you by Mercedes-Benz. That feeling of owning your first Mercedes-Benz is hard to believe, but it's real. From the leather stitching to the iconic design, every element of a Mercedes-Benz lives up to its reputation. See for yourself at your local dealership. I'm Brendan Gunn, and this update was covered by the home of the best 2025 draft coverage at 97.5 The Fanatic.
Ricky Batalico.
You lose to the Mets or somebody in your division, it feels like you lose 2 games.
Kincade Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic. All right, Gunner, let's get a couple of text messages here. What are the people saying about the selection of Jihad Campbell? And, of course, any questions for Andrew DeCecco. And then we will give our day 2 wish list here in a moment.
All right, we got a first-time texter checking in saying the Eagles need to be aggressive, all capital letters aggressive. We have 18 picks in the next 2 drafts. Let's make a move tonight and get up into the 40s and get the best player available on their board. Safety or tight end, I don't care. I trust Howie.
Yeah, I
Okay.
trust. Isn't it nice that you can just say, whatever they do, I'm good?
You have to trust Howie. It's not blind faith. He just
No.
had 4 consecutive drafts in which he hit it out of the park,
And this
he's
one
off
looks
to
a
a great
good
start.
trade.
He's off to a
Exactly.
great start right now.
It's amazing. I mean, we went through this
I
earlier.
love that.
We went through this earlier today. A couple of things. You look at the first through third rounds over the last 4 years, and obviously yesterday with Jihad Campbell. So in 2021, Devontae Smith and Landon Dickerson, 2 Alabama players. 2022, Jordan Davis in the first round, Nakobe Dean in the third round, 2 Georgia Bulldogs. 2023, Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith, Georgia, Tyler Steen, third round, Alabama. And not only are you drafting guys from the SEC, Andrew, they're drafting guys that fell. Like, it's amazing. Nakobe Dean had first-round grades. They get him in the third round. Landon Dickerson had first-round grades, but obviously the injury history that he had
Nakobe Dean had that
drops
too
him in the
coming
second.
up.
Right. Jalen Carter was a top 3 projected pick. You get him at 9. Nolan Smith. I remember reading mock drafts about Nolan Smith at 10 for the Eagles. They got him at 30.
Yeah.
And then last year with Cooper DeJean. It's amazing.
Yeah, no team does their due diligence like the Philadelphia Eagles. And there's another, and Bill actually brought up a really good point yesterday that we don't talk about enough. And right now you're seeing a lot of teams that now they put an emphasis on, does this player love football?
I saw that from Jay Glazer yesterday.
Yes, and
That's
so
disturbing to me.
But it's important, and I think it speaks to a larger point. Sometimes when you're in this position and you get, they throw the bag at you, sometimes you're able to get a little bit complacent. The Eagles make sure that they prioritize those 30 visits, and you're able to really get inside the minds of a prospect. Does he love football? Is he committed to winning? And you just listed all the players, Andrew, from premier programs.
Yeah.
They're used to winning. They have that culture. So when they get to the NFL and you have a coach like Vic Fangio who might be shouting at you, might be, he has that commanding presence. It's not a drastic departure from what they're already used to. So I think that really speaks to the culture that the Eagles really pride themselves on trying to find players from.
I would look at this tonight as one where if the Eagles are ultra aggressive tonight, which I do think they're going to be, I just have a gut instinct on it based on nothing but just a hunch, is to me, that tells me, whoa, we are not talking about this team being happy to just have a window of opportunity. That means they really do want to repeat. They're sort of pushing a little more capital in to say, we don't want to drop off at all. Is that too aggressive an opinion?
No, John, I don't think it's easy on the surface to see all these free agents depart from the Eagles and wonder if the Eagles are, just kind of getting fat and happy. That was never the case. This was all part of the plan. It was an offseason of maintenance. Howie Roseman prepared everybody for this.
Yeah, he did.
But it was to obviously prioritize your younger nucleus, make sure that you're setting the team up for sustained success, and nail it in the draft. Really build through the draft, as all the good teams do. And he's off to a great start right now. And he's making sure that the Eagles have the groundwork to be a formidable force for the foreseeable future.
Go to groundworks.com for all your basement waterproofing needs.
That's the buzzword.
Nice.
How
You see
about that?
I'm a professional.
All right, give us another text message, and then we'll get into this wish list discussion.
Yeah, somebody's checking in with a question. It says, Jared in Maple Shade says, I'd really love to know what Andrew thinks. What Andrew's he talking about? Football guy Andrew or cooking Andrew over there? Wow.
That's Chef Andrew to you.
Oronde Gadsden II, tight end out of Syracuse. Is he a fit here?
Yeah, I like him a lot. I have him slide in the 4th round. He's more of a pass-catching tight end. He moves really well, but he doesn't give you much as a blocker. A little bit more of a projection, I would say. And the Eagles need a starting.
Dude.
He's a really big dude.
He's a big
and he
dude,
runs
man.
a 4.6, so you like the way that he can kind of get vertical and work the seams. He fits the Eagles' offense, but again, a player in the 4th round, you don't want to put that kind of pressure on somebody who may have to start. I don't know. I think they need to address it a little bit earlier than the fourth round, especially if Dallas Goedert's not long for this roster. I'm not overly I don't feel pretty strong about what's his name? Harrison Bryant and Kylan Granson. I think they're more number 2 tight ends, maybe a 3 tight end. I think E.J. Jenkins is a 3 tight end all day. I think he's going to make the team. But again, they don't have a player right now on their roster, aside from Dallas Goedert. We're not taking him into the equation here, that could be a bridge starter. So to draft a tight end in the fourth round, I think that leaves the Eagles in a bind a little bit.
So, and going now to our wish list conversation, I need a tight end today. Like, need it. Because you know how much I value Dallas Goedert, how much I like Dallas Goedert, and I know he's not going to be on the team next year. And so the only way you're going to make me feel any better is if you are getting a starting tight end to replace him. And so that's like my number one must-have today is a tight end, whether it's a Mason Taylor. I know Harold Fannin, there's the connections because of the Bowling Green. And
he's more of a third-round guy.
Right. Which, they do have a third-round draft pick today still as of right now. But for me, it's a must. They need to draft a tight end today. As thrilled as I am for Jahad Campbell yesterday, and it's been a party all show today, I'm now reaching the point of this is what I need to see today. I would like you guys to talk about that as well, your wish list for today.
So to your point real quick, there's 3 tight ends to keep an eye on that you should familiarize yourself with throughout the day that I think that you'll get excited after you watch their tape, and that is Mason Taylor.
Yep.
Out of LSU, of course, Elijah Arroyo from Miami, and Terrence Ferguson from Oregon. Those are the players, I think, if the Eagles take any one of those 3, you can feel pretty confident that they can grow into a starting role and help the offense in a meaningful way. For me, it's cornerback. I think the Eagles do need to get better at corner, opposite Quinyon Mitchell and complementing Cooper DeJean, who's going to be playing nickel. Trey Amos, for me, is the guy. Or Savone Revel, who's 24 years old, but I like him quite a bit. Had it not been for the ACL injury that he had in practice, he limited him to 3 games. He probably would be a first-round pick. That, to me, would be a really good player. You can plug him in. He kind of reminds me of a more athletic Richard Sherman and his ability to play that bully ball style on the outside. I like his ball skills, and he's highly intelligent.
I just want position group, and I would actually go, I need a corner. By the time I put my head in the pillow tonight, I want a corner, and I want a tight end.
Yeah, you and I have been on the corner.
Yeah, I actually think I may put corner ahead of tight end.
Wow.
But that may be not congruent with where the talent is of most value. But I'm not as adept at looking at it and saying, can you wait till third round for a corner that's going to be able to be in there and pencil in? So
I think in the middle of the second round, middle to the top of John, I mentioned Trey Amos and Savone Revel. I mean,
but if I do that, then I can't get my tight end.
Right, but that sort of aligns with where the tight ends are supposed to go as well. So it just becomes positional value, in my opinion.
I've gotten hung up on Sumer Sports just saying that 25 to 45, there's great value at corner.
There
is, and
is.
to me,
absolutely,
that's where they have their. That's where they have their gauge, and I'm going, okay, I need one of those because I just think you could solve a problem not a problem. You could solve a position group for almost a generation.
Yeah, you set it and forget it. You don't have to worry about it.
Yeah. Gunnar, do you have a wish list for today?
Yeah, I think at the head of it is tight end, just like you, but I can't go tonight without getting a safety. I keep looking back to C.J. Gardner-Johnson and the impact he made on this team. His only 2 years here, you end up in the Super Bowl. He leads the team in interceptions. He leads the NFL in interceptions 1 year. His communication on the back end, I don't think you can just go out there with the Sidney Brown. I don't trust him at all. I think he flies around a little bit too hot a little bit sometimes. Picks up a dumb penalty here or there. Yes, he lays the wood. We all love that in Philadelphia. But if you don't come through with the safety that can turn the ball over this weekend, I think that could be a little bit of an issue this season.
And I should mention defensive tackle as well. I've been pretty strong in my opinion that I think that is the Eagles' greatest position of need.
Oh, they love it, yeah.
T.J. Sanders from South Carolina at 64 would be a very good value. The Eagles brought him in for a 30 visit, and he does have a lot of the qualities that the Eagles typically look for at that position as they try to fill the void left by Milton Williams.
And then there's also offensive line, too, if you're thinking about the future of Lane Johnson. This is why this draft has been so exciting for me, because I don't know where they're going to go. I didn't think they were going to go linebacker yesterday.
The Eagles are in a good spot. They are. They're in a good spot. guard, I think I've made my point very clear where I stand with guard. I don't think they need to take a guard. I think Tyler Steen's going to be just fine.
Yeah, you've been saying that, and you said it last season too, even with Becton. All right, coming up next, we'll have our key three, obviously 3 best minutes from today's show. We'll sneak in a couple more text messages, and we'll talk a little bit about Shedeur Sanders, who falls out of the first round. John wants you to keep an eye on something, and I saw a tweet yesterday that was just so funny, the irony of it. I'll explain more coming up next. It's Kincade Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Tyrone Johnson.
I want nothing good to ever happen to the Mets. I never want them to win a single game.
Kincade Salciunas, 97.5, The Fanatic. Johnny, we have not talked about the Phillies at all today, obviously. They did not play yesterday. Yesterday was day 1 of the NFL draft. Today's days 2 and 3. They do begin a series with the Cubbies today. But that's not even what I'm asking. Will you count the 0-for-2 performance for Brandon Marsh in AAA Lehigh Valley as the 0 for forever in April?
No, he's 0 for 31.
It only counts on the big league.
He's sitting 0 for 31 right now.
Yeah, but he was there for his guy, Garrett Stubbs,
who went yard yesterday.
Celebrating together like the old days.
Now
DJ AAA.
Now here's the bad thing.
It is DJ AAA, baby.
So Marsh has 3 plate appearances. He goes
ZZ Flop.
0 for 2 with a walk, and then he gets replaced by Cade Fergus.
Cade Fergus.
And Cade Fergus.
Sounds like a Seinfeld.
You could have told me that was a prospect in the 7th round this weekend.
That does sound like a Seinfeld.
Cade Fergus.
Cade Fergus replaces Brandon Marsh and ends up going 2 for 3 with 3 ribbies.
Wow.
So,
by the way, today's Philly Pretzel Factory's 18th consecutive year celebrating National Pretzel Day.
No way.
They're giving away free pretzels. So if you're a rewards member, you're going to receive double the points on your purchase. That's Saturday, 4/26 only. But, so that's National Pretzel Day's tomorrow.
Okay.
So celebrate National Pretzel Day tomorrow. By the way, you can go in and get a free pretzel.
I love the Philly Pretzel Factory.
They're awesome.
It's just amazing.
All new members, when you join the app and everything, you get 5 free pretzels for signing up.
Oh, dude, how about that?
That's by the way, graduation parties.
Oh, yeah, the pretzel tray is always
It's a killer.
That's a crowd pleaser.
The pretzel tray, especially like depending on how that party's going. You know?
What do you mean?
Well, there's some parties that are a little bit more wild. Like mine made.
Are you suggesting that it needs to soak it up a little bit?
Yeah, the pretzel is
you and the cousins take a walk?
Yeah, exactly. The pretzels,
amazing.
Help.
Yeah, go on a long walk.
Olivia has her graduation party in 13 days.
Just saying.
Hey,
but I might want to have a pretzel tray.
DePaul's table, I think, doesn't. I don't think they really need them. But
you have it in the car for afterward.
Can't wait.
All right, so let's get a couple text messages. You know what? No, I'm sorry. I want to talk about the Shedeur Sanders real quick because he falls out of the first round. And you just have a little hunch, Johnny, that I would like for you to remind the people in case they weren't listening. I think you said in the 7 o'clock hour.
I watch a little birdie told me, watch San Francisco.
Yeah?
That Kyle Shanahan may lurk there. They have the 9th pick of the 2nd round, I believe.
Actually, you know what? Tyrone and I were talking about that last night. We were kicking that idea around. I don't know if they're overly. They don't seem.
Well, they haven't paid their quarterback yet.
Because he's not that good.
And
$50 million for Brock Purdy would be a tragedy.
Like they haven't committed to Brock Purdy, so San Francisco would be a really good spot, John.
And it would be a great spot for, as much as I cannot stand Kyle Shanahan, it would be a great spot for Kyle Shanahan because I respect his talents as a coach.
And I think Shedeur would thrive there. I really do.
So do I. If you think of that, like look at what RG3 did with the Shanahans in I'm telling you right now, watch that lurking there because I don't think Cleveland's taking him.
I don't either.
I don't think Cleveland's taking him. I don't. I
thought the Saints had a shot at 9. Even after what we talked about yesterday.
I think Milroe is the guy that the Saints want. So I think Milroe will be the guy the Saints want.
By the way, I feel bad for Milroe. He was invited to the draft and didn't come off the board.
Yeah, no. I mean, that's always sad. Like I remember Geno Smith. I remember that from years ago. They're
just sitting there in the camera keeps panning over to them.
Yeah, Will Levis. Like that's always rough.
Yeah, it's tough, man.
We got to meet Gilly the Kid.
Oh, that's a big one. That's a big win.
So
there.
at least he can like put that on the gram.
He probably didn't even know who he was.
Probably not.
I'm sure he did.
That was way before my time.
I'm sure he didn't.
So yesterday, Jordan Schultz, well before the draft started, this is at 12:30 in the afternoon. He put out a very just ironic report. He spoke to a high-level NFL executive about Shedeur Sanders. Quote, the anonymous negative quotes that pop up every year. Total garbage. If you got something to say, put your name on it or keep it in-house. Every team has access to similar intel. Nobody's dumb enough to read a tweet and suddenly pull a guy off their board. This is supposed to be a celebration for these players, the biggest weekend of their lives, and instead, some people try to torpedo them for clout. Enough already. It's embarrassing for the league.
Wait a minute.
I don't disagree with the sentiment.
I agree with it.
But wait a minute.
An anonymous
It's
high
an anonymous
rankings
executive.
Put your name. It's irony.
Why doesn't the executive put his name on it? Because who is going to argue with that sentiment?
Exactly. No,
you know what I mean? That's like it's.
Like,
when
man.
I saw that, I said, just put your name on it. But I agree with what it says.
I agree with the sentiment.
yes.
Yeah. But like, you can't be like, oh, how dare they speak anonymously when you're doing the exact same thing.
But they're speaking anonymously in a positive fashion.
Yeah, okay, so
like
it's different.
To me, if you're saying something positive, put your name on it.
Just put your name on it.
That's
like,
all.
if you're saying something, if I say Andrew Salciunas, one of the most talented guys I've ever worked with, I want my name on it.
Hell yeah, man.
If I say he sucks and he's atrocious, then I'll just,
Well, that's how that usually goes around here.
I'll just call Crossing Broad with a voice to scramble.
Exactly, that's all.
But that's the part of the pre-draft process that I don't like. I think that's the worst part of it because it's a smear campaign on prospects when this should be a celebratory occasion and one of the biggest nights of their lives, and you see this stuff being put out days before the draft to really hinder their progress. I think that's lame, man.
See, I disagree with you on one point there, though. This is work. This is a career. If someone thinks you suck and thinks that you are not, we deal with it every day on social media. Players are going to deal with this in sports. And I know it's supposed to be like the biggest night of their lives and everything like that. But if it's legitimate criticism,
yeah, but realize your program director calling the program director down the street saying this guy stinks and saying it on Twitter and announcing it to the world.
No, he's not. You're not their employee yet.
Well, that's kind of what they're doing.
Like, but it's not their employee.
And my question is, why now? Where was this back in February? Where was this back in March? Why is it days before
because
they're about to have their lives changed?
Because you may want somebody in the draft process to say to you, trade up and get my pick to get Shedeur Sanders. Now, his stock is... No, I don't think dropped. I think his stock is where it belonged. I said I did not think he was a first-round quarterback. I would never have taken him
even in a class like this, John.
Because then I'm not. Again, my biggest thing is I'm not paying $100,000 for a car that's worth $60,000. I'm not going on the used car. I'm not going on the car lot and going, oh, I need to have that car. Well, it's $60,000. No, let me pay you $100,000.
Well, explain for me, Jackson Dart then. Shedeur Sanders is a better quarterback than Jackson Dart.
I think Jackson Dart is not as qualified as Shedeur Sanders. I think that Jackson Dart, though, has a reputation of being a heads-down worker, of being a guy who I think that you heard Nick Saban. This guy that just is, he's going to really soak it up. He's going to be all about it. He's a gamer. He's this. Shedeur Sanders.
Sneaky athletic.
Shedeur Sanders has... First of all, you're getting dad. Yeah. Because dad has inserted himself into everything. And if you're a head coach, you got to feel confident about your head coach. If Dion is now inserted into the mix. I mean, the fact that he had his son standing in front of a giant display of merchandise of Shedeur Sanders, that's so freaking arrogant.
Yeah.
What kid in the draft last night? None of them did that.
But I think you have to separate Dion from Shedeur.
You can't, though, because dad's inserted himself into everything.
Yeah, but Shedeur is his own entity. He's his own person.
Yeah, but can he
I even heard you say earlier today, John, that you were really taken aback with how he handled everything.
I was impressed with the way he spoke last night. I'm rooting like hell for the kid. Right. But I'm also rooting like hell for the kid for dad to get on with his life. Leave him the hell alone, Dion.
Maybe he will once his son moves on to the pro ranks.
But the thing is, Dion didn't need his dad to do this. You don't need to do this. Leave him alone. Get out of the mix.
I agree with that.
My God, let the young man have his career, Dad.
All right, we got the key three here. 3 best minutes from today's show.
Now, the Kincade Salciunas Key 3. Today's best.
Johnny, good morning, man.
I am smiling ear to ear. And I think I look back at 11:39 last night, or whatever it was, 11:38, and I say, love, love, love what Howie Roseman did.
The Philadelphia Eagles traded up from pick 32 to 31. They moved up one spot, swapping with the Kansas City Chiefs, who they beat in the Super Bowl, by the way. And the Eagles selected linebacker, Jihad Campbell out of Alabama. This dude, by the way, is an athletic freak. Not just like speed, sideline to sideline. This guy's jacked. He is a linebacker that we will fall in love with in this city. And the fact that they got him at 31 because he continued to fall, there's some medical concerns, shoulder concerns.
The labrum.
But you know what? Once again, Howie Roseman read the draft board, had a guy that he liked. There was reports that he was willing to trade up even more than just one spot to land Jihad Campbell. They had a player that they targeted, and they got the guy that they wanted, and all they had to do was give him a 5th-round pick for it, John.
Well, I can't believe Jihad Campbell was there when the Eagles were even in striking distance to be able to trade up and get him. I am so excited this morning. I can't believe
More SEC talent.
I love
man.
that.
So over the last couple of years, let's just look at the first 3 rounds. 2021, Devontae Smith, Landon Dickerson, your 2
Alabama.
SEC players out of Alabama.
And then Dickerson to FSU. Also, too.
Yes. 2022, Jordan Davis, 1st round, Nakobe Dean, 3rd round. Georgia. 2023, Jalen Carter, Georgia. Nolan Smith, Georgia. Tyler Steen, Alabama. And then last night they add to it with Jihad Campbell, linebacker out Alabama. Andrew DeCecco, welcome in, my man.
The board could not have fallen any better, really, if you're the Philadelphia Eagles and if you're an Eagles fan, because they get a player who I envisioned being a top 10 player, Howie Roseman. It aligned with his thought process as well. They take an off-ball linebacker who has edge capabilities at 31, and just a great value. I talked about him on the show yesterday. 6'3", 235 pounds. This is the modern NFL defender.
The Eagles are going against what they normally do, and what they normally go against is exactly what a lot of people have been wanting in this city. Linebacker drafted in the 1st round. Cornerback last year drafted in the 1st round. Signing and
another
paying,
corner in the 2nd round, by the way.
Yes.
Last year.
Signing and paying a top-tier running back, right? Oh, you can't do the running back anymore. That's so old school. Well, maybe this is an old school city when it comes to the sport of football, and clearly that still works. When you won the Super Bowl, even though Barkley didn't have the best game in the Super Bowl, you got to and won the Super Bowl behind the #1 rushing attack in the NFL and the #1 defense in the NFL. I understand Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady, the goats of their sports. We watched them over the past 15, 20 years run the league. But here's the deal. If you don't have Patrick Mahomes, if you don't have Tom Brady, this should go in any sport. If you don't have what other people are chasing, instead of continuing to chase maybe a mirage, because you don't just find goats left and right.
You do not.
Right? They only come once in every while.
We have goats out in Chester County, though.
Yes, you do.
Like all over the place.
Instead of chasing mirages, try to build something that you think works. And what they have built works. And what they are building, I believe, continues to work. And I'm so thrilled, not just because we're excited for a player, it's what we've been wanting here in Philadelphia. And Howie, I'm not saying Howie's finally understanding. Howie knows more than we do about football, but it just feels good. And man, what another great pick last night. All right, that's the Kincade Salciunas Key 3 best minutes from today's show. It's been a lot of fun reacting to last night's draft. Rounds 2 and 3 obviously continue today. So make sure you're listening to the station all day long. Make sure you're following our man Andrew DeCecco with all his draft coverage.
How about 26? I got to just do the math here. 26 of 32. So 81% of the draft picks from last night came from the SEC and the Big Ten.
It's amazing.
Wow.
15 SEC and 11 Big Ten.
No need to overthink it sometimes,
yeah, I mean,
boys.
seriously,
no need to overthink it sometimes.
Let's just
Don't
do
get
it.
cute.
Hey,
Andrew, good luck today, man.
You did a great job.
You did a
last
great
night,
job
dude.
last night. You did a great job with us today and yesterday, and keep up the great
And
work.
tomorrow,
I appreciate you guys.
Tomorrow's going to be pretty wild.
Hell yeah, man.
Hey, support life-saving cancer research. Join us and our generous partners, Davis CPA Group. Ron Davis was hanging on every word of this draft.
Love you, Ronnie.
And make a donation to the American Association for Cancer Research. You can do it at 975thefanatic.com/AACR because cancer research saves lives. By the way, Ron Davis, though, I was going to maybe ask for a drug test because the other day he was asking, do you think it's time to move on from Wheeler?
Oh, I saw that.
And I'm like, okay, tax season?
Yeah.
Wait a minute, tax season may have really taxed Ron's brain.
Maybe.
In another week, he's going to decompress a little bit. No,
Hey.
don't get rid of Wheeler.
You got me my refund. That's all I cared about.
He's the man.
Everybody have a great weekend. We'll be back at it Monday morning. Mike Missanelli Show comes your way next.